The choice we never made. She agreed to an arranged marriage. He bought an aristocrat. They fell in love anyway. Prologue, the last free day. Eleanor Ashford had exactly 12 hours of freedom left. She stood in the empty gallery after closing, surrounded by paintings she'd never see again. Sotheby's new Bond Street location had been her sanctuary for 3 years. High ceilings, perfect lighting, the hushed reverence of people who understood that art wasn't decoration. It was salvation. Her phone buzzed for the 14th time. Her father. She declined the call and turned back to the Monet in front of her, a water lily study from 1919. It had sold that afternoon for £2.3 million to a Russian oligarch who'd barely looked at it. "You're still here." Ellie turned to find Marcus, the senior cataloger, standing in the doorway with his coat already on. He was 60, wore the same tweed jacket every day, and had never once asked her about anything that wasn't work. She loved him for it. "Just saying goodbye," she said. Marcus studied her with the same careful attention he gave 18th century portraiture. "Your father called the office today. Spoke to Davidson." Ellie's stomach dropped. "What did he say?" "That you'd be tendering your resignation. Effective immediately." Marcus paused. "Family emergency." The words hung in the air like smoke. "Not a lie exactly. Just not the whole truth." "I see," Ellie managed. "Do you?" Marcus stepped into the gallery, hands in his pockets. "Because Davidson seemed to think this was very sudden. And you, Eleanor, are many things, but sudden isn't one of them. She planned to tell them tomorrow. Write a proper letter. Give notice. Pretend this was a choice. It's complicated," she said finally. "It always is with family." Marcus walked to the Monet, stood beside her. "My father wanted me to be a barrister. 4 generations of King's Counsel. I told him I'd rather catalog dead men's paintings than defend living ones." He smiled faintly. "We didn't speak for 6 years. Did you regret it?" "Every day." He looked at her. "But I'd do it again." Ellie felt something crack in her chest. "I don't have that luxury." "Everyone has that luxury, Eleanor. Most of us just don't take it." Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from her mother. "Darling, please call. Your father is beside himself." Marcus glanced at her screen. "You should go." "I should stay." "You should go," he repeated, gentler now. "Whatever's waiting for you, delaying it won't change it." Ellie knew he was right. She'd known since the phone call 3 days ago, when her father's voice had cracked in a way she'd never heard before. "Ellie, I need you to come home. Please. I've done something terrible." She'd taken the train to the Cotswolds that evening, driving through familiar lanes she hadn't seen in months. Blackmere Estate rose from the hills like something from a Gothic novel, all stone and history and impossible beauty. Her family had lived there since 1624. 400 years of Ashfords, an unbroken line stretching back to the first Earl. The line was about to break. Her father met her at the door. The Earl of Blackmere, tall and silver-haired, always impeccably dressed. Except that night, his tie was loose and his eyes were red. "How bad is it?" she'd asked. "Catastrophic." They'd sat in his study, surrounded by portraits of dead relatives who'd managed not to lose everything. Her father explained it clinically, like he was discussing someone else's ruin, the investments that had failed, the loans he'd taken against the estate, the historic renovation costs that had spiraled, the death taxes from her grandmother's passing that he'd deferred, then deferred again. "How much?" Ellie had asked. £8 million. She'd laughed. Actually laughed, because the number was so absurd it couldn't be real. "That's not possible." "I'm afraid it is." "Sell something. We have the Gainsborough, the Constable landscapes. All entailed. The estate is protected. We can't sell pieces without approval from the Heritage Trust, and that takes years." Her father's hands shook as he poured scotch. "The bank is calling in the loans. We have 90 days. Then we declare bankruptcy. Let the estate go." "Eleanor." Her father had looked at her with something like horror. "This house has been in our family for 4 centuries. It's a house, father. Stone and wood. It's not worth. It's everything." He'd said it so quietly she almost missed it. "Your mother grew up here. You were born here. Every Ashford for 14 generations." His voice broke. "I can't be the one who loses it." She wanted to say, "Then you shouldn't have gambled with it." But she'd seen his face and couldn't. Now, 3 days later, Standing in the gallery with Marcus, she could still feel the weight of what came next. "There's a solution," her father had said, after the scotch was gone. "A way to save everything." "What kind of solution?" "A marriage." Ellie had frozen. "I'm sorry, what?" "There's a man. American. Technically, though his mother was British. He's acquired the old Vale estate in Worcestershire. He wants—" Her father had cleared his throat. "He needs to marry into the aristocracy. For board membership, heritage trust voting rights, legitimacy." "You're joking." "I've never been more serious. This is insane. People don't arrange marriages anymore. This isn't the 18th century. No, it's worse. The 18th century had rules." Her father had looked at her. "He's willing to clear our debts. All of them. In exchange for the marriage." "Let me understand this," Ellie had said slowly. "You want me to marry a complete stranger so you can keep a house. I want you to save your family. By selling myself. By making a sacrifice." Her father's voice had hardened. "The same sacrifice every Ashford daughter has made for 400 years. You marry well. You produce heirs. You preserve the line. Except I won't be marrying well. I'll be marrying for money. Your great-great-grandmother married a railroad magnate. Your great-aunt married an oil baron. This is what we do, Eleanor. This is what we've always done." She'd wanted to walk out. Should have walked out. But then her mother had appeared in the doorway, elegant even in crisis, and said quietly, "Please, darling. At least meet him." Now, in the gallery, Marcus was watching her with concern. "Family emergency," he said again. "That's what we're calling it. That's what it is. And you're going to handle it?" "I don't have a choice." Marcus smiled sadly. "We always have a choice, Eleanor. We just don't always like the options." He left her alone with the Monet. She stood there for another hour, memorizing the brush strokes, the way light could be captured and held forever in oil and canvas, the way beauty could be preserved, even if the moment that created it was long dead. At 9 o'clock, she locked up for the last time, took the tube to Paddington, caught the last train to Oxford, then the local service to Moreton and Marsh. Her father's driver was waiting. "Welcome home, Miss Eleanor," he said. Home. She looked at Blackmere Estate rising against the night sky, every window blazing with light. Tomorrow, she would meet Sebastian Vale. Tomorrow, her father would ask her to save everything by sacrificing herself. And the terrible truth was, she already knew what her answer would be. Not because she was noble, not because she believed in aristocratic duty or family honor or any of the romantic lies people told themselves, but because she'd grown up in those halls, had hidden in the priest whole as a child, had learned to ride in those stables, had buried her dog in the west garden under the oak tree her great-grandfather planted. Because home wasn't just stone and wood, it was memory, and she wasn't strong enough to let it die. Eleanor Ashford climbed out of the car and walked through doors that had stood for 400 years into a future she didn't choose but couldn't refuse. She had 12 hours of freedom left. She was going to spend them remembering what choice felt like. Chapter 1. The Business Transaction. Sebastian Vale arrived at Blackmere Estate at precisely 11 o'clock, which told Eleanor everything she needed to know about him. She watched from her bedroom window as a black Range Rover crunched up the gravel drive. Not a chauffeur-driven Bentley like the ones her father's friends arrived in, but something newer, American, expensive in a way that didn't apologize for itself. The car door opened and he stepped out. Eleanor had Googled him, of course, had spent the previous night scrolling through Forbes articles and TechCrunch profiles, building a picture of Sebastian Vale from pixels and financial data. Self-made billionaire. Founded his first company at 23. Sold it for $200 million at 27. Built his current empire, something to do with cybersecurity and AI, before he turned 30. Now, at 34, he was worth an estimated £3.2 billion. But the photographs hadn't prepared her for the reality of him. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked like he'd forgotten to comb it. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary at Sotheby's, but he wore it carelessly, like he didn't notice he had it on. His face was sharp angles and contained intensity, not handsome in the classical sense, but striking. The kind of face that demanded attention without asking for it. Her father appeared on the drive, already smiling too widely. Eleanor watched them shake hands. Her father gestured toward the house, playing tour guide, playing lord of the manor. Playing the role he'd been born into but never quite mastered. She should go down. She'd promised her mother she'd be gracious, but her feet wouldn't move. A soft knock at her door. "Darling!" Her mother's voice, carefully modulated. "He's here." Eleanor turned from the window. Her mother stood in the doorway, wearing pearls and a silk blouse, every inch the countess, even though the title meant nothing anymore. Even though they were selling their daughter to keep the house, those pearls had been bought to ornament. "I know," Eleanor said. "You look lovely." Eleanor glanced down at herself. Navy dress, minimal jewelry, her hair pulled back. She dressed like she was going to a job interview, because that's essentially what this was. An interview for the position of wife to a billionaire. No experience necessary. Aristocratic pedigree required. "Shall we?" her mother asked, extending her hand. They descended the main staircase together, their heels clicking on marble that had been laid in 1734. Eleanor had played on these stairs as a child, sliding down the banister when her nanny wasn't looking. Now each step felt like walking to her own execution. Voices echoed from the drawing room. Her father's boom, practiced and hearty. A second voice, American accented. Lower, harder to read. Eleanor and her mother paused outside the door. Her mother squeezed her hand once, then released it and walked in first. "Ah, there you are. Sebastian, may I present my wife, Catherine, Countess of Blackmere." "Lady Blackmere." Sebastian's voice was polite, professional. "Thank you for having me. The pleasure is ours entirely, Mr. Vale." Then her mother stepped aside, and Eleanor had no choice but to enter. Sebastian Vale turned to look at her, and for a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or assessment. His eyes, dark gray, almost charcoal, swept over her once, quickly, then settled on her face. "And this," her father said, voice swelling with proprietary pride that made Eleanor's skin crawl, "is my daughter. Eleanor. Miss Ashford." Sebastian extended his hand. Eleanor took it. His grip was firm, brief, impersonal. His hand was warm and slightly calloused, which surprised her. Men with £3.2 billion didn't usually have calluses. "Mr. Vale," she said. "Sebastian, please." He released her hand and stepped back. "Shall we sit?" They arranged themselves like pieces on a chessboard. Her parents on one sofa, Sebastian in the wingback chair, Eleanor on the opposite sofa. A coffee service sat between them, because God forbid the English aristocracy conduct business without tea. "Eleanor," her father began, "Sebastian and I have been discussing." "I think," Sebastian interrupted quietly, "that Miss Ashford and I should speak alone." Silence. Her father's smile faltered. Her mother's hand went to her pearls. "I'm not sure that's—" her father started. "I'm sure." Sebastian's tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't negotiable either. He looked at Eleanor. "If that's acceptable to you." Every etiquette lesson her mother had drilled into her said to demur, to defer, to let the men handle business. But something in Sebastian's expression, a challenge, maybe, or a test, made her say, "Yes." Her parents exchanged a glance. Her father stood, straightening his jacket. "Of course. We'll just be in the library if you need." "We won't," Sebastian said. When the door closed behind them, the room felt suddenly larger and smaller at the same time. Eleanor poured tea to give her hand something to do. "Milk? Sugar?" "Neither." "Thank you." She handed him a cup. He took it but didn't drink, just held it like a prop in a play they were both performing. "You worked at Sotheby's," he said. "Yes. Impressionist and modern art department. You've done your research." "I always do." He set the teacup down. "Cambridge, first-class honors in art history. Published your undergraduate thesis on the influence of Japanese woodblocks on French Impressionism. You could have gone on to do a doctorate. I chose to work instead." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "Because academic art history is about the past. Working at an auction house is about the present. About what art means to people now, what they'll pay for it, fight for it. It's alive." Something shifted in his expression. Interest, perhaps. "But you quit." "I was asked to resign." "By your father." "Yes." "And you did it." It wasn't a question. Eleanor set her own teacup down with deliberate care. I'm here, aren't I? You are. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, studying her. Let me be direct, Miss Ashford. Your father owes £8 million. I'm prepared to clear that debt entirely, plus provide an additional $2 million for estate maintenance and restoration. In exchange, I want to marry you. Hearing it stated so baldly made it worse somehow. I know. Do you know why? My father said something about heritage trust voting rights. The National Heritage Board. I acquired Vale House 18 months ago. It's a grade I-listed building, lots of history, architecturally significant. I want to make certain changes, modernize it while preserving the structure. But any substantial alterations require board approval. He paused. Voting members must either be heritage property owners with aristocratic lineage or be married to someone with such lineage. So you need an aristocrat. I need the right to vote on my own property. Eleanor looked at him directly. There are other titled families. Ones without my father's debt, without the desperation. Why us? Sebastian's smile was brief and humorless. Because desperate people don't ask too many questions. And because your father assured me you were pragmatic. Is that what he called me? He said you understood duty. Eleanor laughed, a short, bitter sound. Duty. How very noble. She stood, unable to sit any longer, and walked to the window. You know what duty means? It means I give up my career, my life in London, my freedom. It means I become Lady Vale, hostess of dinner parties, chair of charity committees, decorative piece in your renovated mansion. That's not what I want. She turned. Then what do you want? Sebastian stood as well, facing her across the antique carpet. I want a wife who doesn't want to be one. I want someone who understands this is a business arrangement, nothing more. No romantic delusions. No expectations beyond the public performance. Public performance. We'll need to appear together at certain events. Dinner parties, charity galas, heritage board functions. We'll maintain the appearance of a normal marriage. And privately, we live separate lives. You'll have your own wing of the house, your own space. I travel frequently for business. You can pursue whatever interests you like. Continue working in art if you want. Start your own gallery, whatever. I won't interfere. Eleanor studied him. And if I want to leave? After 2 years, we can divorce quietly. Irreconcilable differences. You'll receive a settlement that ensures you never have to depend on anyone again. Your family keeps the estate. 2 years. Long enough to establish the marriage for legal purposes. Short enough not to be a life sentence. It was, objectively, a better offer than she'd expected. Freedom within the cage. Financial independence at the end. No pretense of affection. And yet, why? She asked. Why go through all this? You're a billionaire. You could just buy another property, one that doesn't come with heritage restrictions. Sebastian was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice had changed, become harder. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia. My father drove a truck. My mother cleaned houses. He paused. When she died, we couldn't afford the funeral she wanted. We had to settle for cremation and a plot in a public cemetery. Eleanor said nothing. She used to tell me about growing up in England, about the manor house where her father worked as a groundskeeper. She'd describe it like it was a palace. The gardens, the library, the great hall. She loved that place. His jaw tightened. The family sold it when she was 16. Developers turned it into luxury flats. She never got over it. Vale House, Eleanor realized. I bought it the day it came on the market. Paid twice what it was worth because I didn't want anyone else to have it. He met her eyes. My mother died thinking her son would never belong in a place like that. I'm going to prove her wrong. The raw honesty of it hit Eleanor like a physical thing. This wasn't about voting rights or architectural preservation. This was about a boy who'd loved his mother and couldn't save her. She understood that. God help her, she understood that completely. So we're both doing this for ghosts, she said quietly. Sebastian's expression shuddered. We're doing this because it's mutually beneficial. You save your family's estate. I get what I need. It's a transaction. A transaction. Yes. Eleanor looked around the drawing room, at the paintings her ancestors had collected, the furniture they'd commissioned, The life they'd built from stone and privilege, and the assumption that some people simply mattered more than others. She'd spent her whole life in these rooms, breathing this air, becoming exactly what they'd intended, an Ashford daughter, decorative and dutiful. She'd thought working at Sotheby's was escape, but she'd still been cataloging other people's legacies, preserving other people's histories. She'd never built anything of her own. 2 years. 2 years of performance in exchange for the freedom to finally choose. I have conditions, she said. Sebastian's eyebrow lifted. Go on. I want my own bank account. Separate finances. Whatever allowance or settlement you're planning, it starts now, not after the divorce. Agreed? I want the freedom to travel. If I want to go somewhere, I go. No asking permission. Fine. And I want it in writing. All of it. The 2-year timeline, the divorce terms, the settlement. A prenuptial agreement that protects both of us. My lawyers will draft something. My lawyer will review it. You have a lawyer? I will by tomorrow. For the first time, Sebastian smiled. Really smiled, and it transformed his face completely. You're tougher than your father suggested. My father, Eleanor said carefully, doesn't know me as well as he thinks. Good. Sebastian walked to the door, then paused. I should tell you, there will be media attention. I'm not exactly low profile, and marrying into the aristocracy will make headlines. You'll need to prepare for that. I've been photographed at charity events before. Not like this. They'll dig into everything. Your past, your friends, your education. They'll call you a gold digger. Let them. I know what this is. Sebastian studied her for a long moment. Do you? It's a business transaction, Eleanor repeated. You said so yourself. I did. He opened the door. The lawyers will be in touch. We should probably aim for a wedding in 6 weeks. Quick and quiet. 6 weeks. Unless you need more time. To plan a wedding to a stranger. To prepare to sell herself for £8 million and a 2-year exit clause. To say goodbye to whatever dreams she'd still been foolish enough to harbor about love and choice and freedom. 6 weeks is fine, Eleanor said. Then I'll see you at the altar, Miss Ashford. He left without saying goodbye to her parents. Eleanor heard the Range Rover's engine start, the crunch of gravel as he drove away. Her father appeared in the doorway moments later, face anxious. Well, what did he say? Eleanor looked at him, this man who'd gambled away 4 centuries of family history and expected her to pay the debt. This man who'd raised her to be exactly useful enough to save him. He said yes, she told him. Congratulations, father. You've made an excellent match. She walked past him, up the stairs, back to her room. Closed the door and locked it. Sat on the bed where she'd slept as a child, a teenager, a woman who'd thought she'd escaped. 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, she would marry Sebastian Vale. Would become Lady Vale, wife to a billionaire, mistress of a house his mother had once cleaned. Would trade her name and her freedom for the preservation of someone else's legacy. It was a business transaction. They'd both agreed. So why did it feel like she just sold something that could never be bought back? Chapter 2. The performance begins. The law offices of Pemberton and Cross occupied 3 floors of a Georgian building in Mayfair, all dark with paneling and leather-bound law books that probably hadn't been opened since 1987. Eleanor sat in a chair that cost more than her monthly rent had been in London, reviewing a prenuptial agreement that read like a hostage negotiation. Clause 17, her solicitor said, tapping the page with one manicured nail. Jennifer Cross was 50-something, sharp as broken glass, and had come highly recommended by a former colleague at Sotheby's. This is where it gets interesting. Eleanor read aloud. In the event of marital dissolution prior to the agreed 2-year term, the party initiating said dissolution forfeits all financial settlements and property rights as outlined in clauses 9 through 15. Translation, Jennifer said. If you walk out early, you get nothing. The estate debts get called in, Blackmere goes to auction, and you're back where you started. But if I stay the full 2 years, then you're looking at a settlement of £20 million, a property in London, the Belgravia flat is listed here, and a guaranteed income of $500,000 per year for 10 years. Jennifer sat back. It's generous. Extremely generous, actually. But it's also a cage with a very specific lock. Eleanor had spent the last 3 weeks in a strange limbo, neither her old life nor her new one. She packed up her London flat, said goodbye to friends with vague explanations about family obligations, and moved back to Blackmere. The wedding was in 3 weeks. The prenup needed to be signed in 3 days. "What would you do?" Eleanor asked. Jennifer looked at her over reading glasses. "I'd ask myself what I'm getting out of this besides money. Because 2 years is a long time to be miserable, even for £20 million. I'm saving my family's home. That's what your family gets. What do you get?" Eleanor thought about the Monet she'd watched sell to someone who didn't care. About cataloging other people's legacies while having none of her own. About Sebastian's face when he talked about his mother. "A clean slate," she said finally. "After 2 years, I can do anything I want. Start a gallery, travel, live anywhere. I'll have the financial freedom to actually choose. And you think 2 years of a fake marriage is worth that? Don't you?" Jennifer smiled faintly. "I think you're tougher than you look, Lady Ashford." She pushed a pen across the desk. "Sign here, here and here. Initial the bottom of each page. And Eleanor, read everything first. Never sign anything you haven't read." Eleanor took the pen. "Even if the alternative is losing everything. Especially then." The engagement announcement appeared in the Times 3 days later. "Mr. Sebastian Vale and the Honourable Eleanor Ashford are pleased to announce their engagement. The wedding will take place privately at Blackmere Estate, Gloucestershire. No media attendance." By noon, Eleanor's phone had 17 missed calls. By evening, the number had tripled. Her university roommate, Sophie. "Eleanor, what the actual fuck? You're marrying a billionaire? And you didn't tell me? Call me immediately." Her former supervisor at Sotheby's. "Congratulations on your engagement. We'd be delighted to host your wedding gift registry." A journalist from Tatler. "Miss Ashford, I'd love to discuss your upcoming nuptials for our November issue. The new generation of aristocratic marriages. Very modern. Please call." Eleanor deleted them all except Sophie's. She called back at midnight, when she knew Sophie would still be awake. "Start talking," Sophie said by way of greeting. "And don't leave anything out." Eleanor told her. Not everything, not the debt, not the desperation, but enough. An arrangement. Mutual benefit. She made it sound almost romantic, the way people do when they're lying to themselves as much as to others. "But do you love him?" Sophie asked. "I barely know him." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." Silence on the line. Then, "Elle, are you sure about this? Because you can come stay with me. My flat's tiny, but we'll make it work." "You don't have to." "I'm sure," Eleanor interrupted. "Really. It's what I want." Another lie. She was getting good at them. Sebastian called 4 days before the wedding. Their first conversation since the proposal. "We need to be seen together," he said without preamble. "Dinner tomorrow. Somewhere public. The Wolseley, 8 o'clock. Hello to you too." A pause. "Sorry. Hello. How are you?" "Busy signing away my life." "You?" "Same." He almost sounded amused. "The Wolseley. Tomorrow. Can you make it?" Eleanor looked around her childhood bedroom, at the boxes she hadn't unpacked because unpacking meant accepting this was permanent. "I'll be there. We're something the photographers will like." "Excuse me. There will be photographers. That's the point. We need to look like an actual couple. I thought this was a private arrangement." "It is. But the world doesn't know that." His voice softened slightly. "Just try to look happy, okay? Like you actually want to marry me." The line went dead before she could respond. The Wolseley was exactly the kind of place where rich people performed their wealth. High ceilings, Art Deco glamour, prices that required you to be comfortable with your own privilege. Eleanor arrived in a black dress and her grandmother's pearls, armor disguised as elegance. Sebastian was already there, standing when she approached. He wore a dark suit, no tie, and looked uncomfortable in a way she found oddly reassuring. At least one of them was bad at pretending. "You look beautiful," he said. "You're supposed to say that. Doesn't make it less true." A waiter materialized, pulled out her chair, draped a napkin across her lap with the reverence usually reserved for holy relics. They ordered wine they didn't want and food they wouldn't taste, performing the ritual of courtship for an audience of strangers. "Smile," Sebastian said quietly. Eleanor smiled. It felt like glass breaking. Better. Now laugh at something I said. You haven't said anything funny. Pretend. She laughed. Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand, and she understood this was part of the performance too. His hand was warm, solid. She wondered if he could feel her pulse racing. There's a photographer at 3 o'clock, he murmured. Don't look. Eleanor looked anyway. A man with a camera, pretending to photograph his dinner while his lens pointed directly at them. I told you not to look. I don't take orders well. I'm beginning to notice that. Sebastian's thumb traced circles on her palm, an absent gesture that made her skin prickle. We should probably discuss the actual wedding. Do you have preferences for our fake wedding? Eleanor. Sorry. She pulled her hand back, reached for her wine. No preferences. You're paying for it. You decide. It's your wedding, too. Is it? Because it feels more like a corporate merger. Sebastian was quiet for a moment. Then, I spoke to your mother. She wants the ceremony in the estate chapel. Your father wants the reception in the great hall. I said yes to both. Of course you did. Would you have preferred otherwise? Eleanor thought about the chapel where 14 generations of Ashfords had married, christened their children, buried their dead. Where she'd once thought she might marry someone she actually loved. It's fine, she said. You're a terrible liar. I'm learning from the best. He almost smiled at that. Fair point. The food arrived. They ate in silence, performing normalcy for the cameras. Eleanor noticed other diners watching them, recognized the calculation in their eyes. Sebastian Vale, the American interloper. Eleanor Ashford, the impoverished aristocrat. A match made in mutual desperation. Let them think what they wanted. In 2 years, she'd be free of all of them. I'm moving into Vale House next week, Sebastian said. Getting everything ready. You should come see it before the wedding. Why? Because it's going to be your home. My prison, you mean? Your home, he repeated firmly. I meant what I said. You'll have your own space, your own life, but you should at least see where that life will be. Eleanor set down her fork. Fine. When? Saturday. I'll send a car. I can drive myself. You don't have a car. I'll rent one. Sebastian studied her. Why are you fighting me on every single thing? Because if I don't fight you on the small things, I'll have nothing left when it comes to the big ones. Something shifted in his expression. Understanding, maybe. Or respect. Saturday, he said. Noon. Drive yourself. The photographs appeared online within hours. Eleanor and Sebastian at the Wolseley, hands clasped, leaning toward each other like conspirators or lovers. The headlines varied. Tech billionaire Vale to marry British aristocrat. Modern fairy tale. American success story meets old world nobility. Lady Eleanor Ashford lands Silicon Valley's most eligible bachelor. Sophie texted, You look gorgeous but also like you're being held hostage. Blink twice if you need rescue. Eleanor stared at the photograph. Saw what the world saw. A beautiful couple, a romantic dinner, a love story. Saw what she knew to be true. 2 people performing a transaction, both getting exactly what they needed and nothing they wanted. She typed back, I'm fine. Promise. Another lie. But what else could she say? The truth was too complicated, that she was choosing this cage because at least it came with a key. That she was marrying a stranger because it seemed less cruel than marrying someone she could have loved. That she'd signed the prenup because £20 million in 2 years was worth more than hope. That she was terrified this was the biggest mistake of her life, but she was going to make it anyway because the alternative, watching Blackmere crumble, seeing her parents' shame, admitting that 400 years of Ashford history ended because of her cowardice, was worse. She looked at the photograph again, at Sebastian's hand covering hers, at the way they leaned toward each other, creating the illusion of intimacy. 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, she would stand in the Ashford chapel and promise to love, honor, and cherish a man she barely knew. Would wear her grandmother's dress and her mother's veil and become Lady Vale, wife to a billionaire, guardian of someone else's American dream. And maybe, if she performed the role well enough, she could forget it was a performance at all. Chapter 3. The house that grief built. Vale House sat at the end of a long gravel drive, surrounded by ancient oaks and the kind of manicured lawns that required a full-time gardening staff. Eleanor parked her rented Audi next to Sebastian's Range Rover and sat for a moment, studying the house. It was beautiful. Jacobean architecture, honey-colored stone, mullioned windows that caught the afternoon light. Not as large as Blackmere, but more cohesive. Someone had actually lived here, rather than accumulating centuries of additions and renovations like archaeological layers. The front door opened before she could knock. Sebastian appeared, wearing jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. It was the most casual she'd seen him, and somehow it made him more intimidating, not less. Without the armor of a suit, he looked younger. More real. "You found it," he said. "You gave me a postcode. GPS did the rest. Come in." The entrance hall was a disaster. Dust sheets covered furniture, paint cans lined the walls, and the chandelier had been lowered to the floor, its crystals spread out like an exploded star. The smell of sawdust and fresh plaster filled the air. "Sorry about the mess," Sebastian said. "We're in the middle of renovations." "I can see that." Eleanor walked to the center of the room, looking up at the coffered ceiling. Original plasterwork, she noted. 17th century, beautifully preserved. "What are you changing?" "Electrical, mostly. The wiring is from the 1950s. Also updating the heating, the plumbing, the kitchen." He gestured toward the back of the house. "Want the tour?" She followed him through rooms in various stages of transformation. The library with its floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, currently empty. The drawing room where workers were restoring the ornate fireplace. The conservatory with its glass ceiling and views of the gardens. "My mother worked here," Sebastian said, stopping in the conservatory. "Not in this room specifically, but in the house. Her father was the groundskeeper. She grew up in the cottage at the edge of the property." Eleanor looked out at the gardens. "Is it still there?" "The cottage?" "Yes. I'm having it restored too." He paused. "I thought maybe you could use it. As your space. You said you wanted your own wing. The cottage could be that. Separate from the main house, but still on the property." She turned to him, surprised. "You're serious? I told you this wasn't a prison. Most prisons don't come with guest cottages. Most business arrangements don't require 2 years of cohabitation." He walked to the window. "Look, I know this is strange. Believe me, I know. But we're both stuck in it, so we might as well make it bearable." Eleanor studied his profile. "Why are you being nice about this?" "I'm not nice. I'm practical." "Same question." Sebastian turned to face her. "Because my mother spent her entire life being treated like she was less than. Less educated, less refined, less worthy. She cleaned houses for people who wouldn't let her use the front door." His voice hardened. "I'm not doing that to you. You're giving up 2 years of your life. The least I can do is make sure you have your own front door." Something in Eleanor's chest loosened. Not forgiveness. She wasn't ready for that. But understanding, maybe. Recognition that they were both trapped by different inheritances, different ghosts. "Show me the cottage," she said. The groundskeeper's cottage was smaller than she'd expected, but perfect. 2 bedrooms, a sitting room with exposed beams, a kitchen that looked out over a walled garden. It smelled of fresh paint and new wood. "The furniture hasn't arrived yet," Sebastian said. "But you can choose whatever you want. Decorator's coming next week. You should meet with her. Tell her your preferences." Eleanor walked through the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. She could picture it. Her books lining the shelves, art on the walls, a space that was entirely hers. Not her childhood bedroom at Blackmere, frozen in adolescence. Not her London flat, temporary and rented. Something new. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "I told you." "Not the practical reasons. The real reason." Sebastian leaned against the doorframe. "You want the truth. Please. I don't want you to hate me." He said it simply, without drama. "We're going to be married. We're going to have to see each other, talk to each other, exist in the same space. If you hate me, that's 2 years of misery for both of us. So this is self-interest. Everything I do is self-interest. But that doesn't make the cottage less yours." Eleanor looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the tension in his shoulders, the careful distance he maintained. He was as uncomfortable with this as she was. They were both performing roles in a play neither had written. "Thank you," she said. "For the cottage." "You're welcome." He pushed off from the doorframe. "Come on. I'll show you the rest of the house." The master bedroom was on the 2nd floor, overlooking the gardens. It was massive, easily the size of Eleanor's entire London flat. The furniture was new, modern, expensive in that understated way that cost more than obvious luxury. "This is yours," Sebastian said. "Mine's in the other wing. Separate bedrooms." Obviously. He walked to the window. "There will be times when we need to share space. Dinner parties, overnight guests. But day to day, you won't see me unless you want to." Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed, testing it. Firm mattress, high-quality linens. "Have you thought about what we tell people? About us? The truth. We met, we fell in love, we're getting married. No one will believe that. They will if we sell it properly." He turned to face her. "The narrative is simple. We met at a charity gala 6 months ago. Talked about art and architecture. Started dating quietly. Decided to get married. 6 months isn't very long. When you know, you know." He said it like he was reciting lines. "That's what people want to hear. Romance. Destiny. Not the truth. Which is that we're two practical people making a practical choice." Eleanor stood, walked to the window beside him. The view was stunning. Rolling hills, the edge of the forest, sky that went on forever. "What happens if we can't pull it off? The performance. We have to pull it off. If people suspect this is a transaction, it undermines everything. Your family's reputation, my standing with the Heritage Board. We need to be convincing. So we lie. We construct a narrative that serves both our interests." "Same thing." Sebastian was quiet for a moment. Then, "My business partner thinks I'm insane. Marrying someone I barely know for a voting seat on a Heritage Board. He said I could have just bribed someone. Why didn't you?" "Because I'm tired of buying things that should be earned." He looked at her. "I know how this looks. Billionaire buys himself an aristocrat wife. But I'm not buying you, Eleanor. I'm partnering with you. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." His voice was firm. "Partners have equal say, equal power. You signed a prenup that protects you as much as it protects me. You'll have your own money, your own space, your own life. In 2 years, you walk away with enough wealth to do whatever you want. That's not ownership. That's collaboration." Eleanor wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. Because the alternative, that she was selling herself, that she was no different from her ancestors who'd married for dowries and alliances, was too ugly to accept. "What about affection?" she asked quietly. Sebastian frowned. "What about it? Are we allowed to? Are we supposed to?" She stumbled over the words. "The prenup doesn't specify physical expectations." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Jesus. No. I'm not." He ran a hand through his hair. "We're not sleeping together. That's not part of this. The papers will expect. The papers can expect whatever they want. What happens in private is private." He looked uncomfortable. "If you want to date other people, discreetly, that's fine. I won't interfere. What about you?" "I'll do the same." Eleanor tried to imagine it. Married to Sebastian, living in separate wings, maintaining the fiction for the world while pursuing separate lives in private. It sounded lonely. But then, she'd been lonely at Sotheby's too, cataloging other people's treasures while building none of her own. "This is the strangest conversation I've ever had," she said. Sebastian almost smiled. "Same." A phone buzzed. Sebastian checked it, his expression darkening. "I need to take this. Work thing. I should go anyway. Wedding planning calls." "Right. The wedding." He said it like he'd forgotten about it. "Friday, right?" "Friday. I'll be there." "You better be. You're the groom." That got a real smile out of him. Brief, but genuine. "See you at the altar, Eleanor." She left him on the phone, conducting business in what would soon be their shared house. Walked back through rooms that smelled of sawdust and ambition, past workers restoring a building that hadn't been loved in decades. Sebastian was rebuilding Vale House for his mother. Eleanor was marrying him for her father. They were both trying to honor ghosts who couldn't appreciate the sacrifice. As she drove away, she looked back at the house in her rearview mirror. Honeystone and mullioned windows, beautiful and hollow. In less than a week, it would be her home. She wondered if she'd ever stop feeling like a visitor in her own life. That evening, Eleanor sat in her room at Blackmere with her mother, going through wedding details that felt increasingly surreal. The flowers arrived Thursday, her mother said, checking her list. White roses, lily of the valley, touches of greenery. Classic elegant. Fine. And the photographer confirmed. He's done 3 royal weddings, very discreet. Perfect. Her mother set down the list. Darling, are you all right? Eleanor looked up. Why wouldn't I be? You're getting married in 5 days and you seem... Her mother searched for the word. Distant. I'm fine. Just nervous. About Sebastian? About all of it. Her mother reached across and took her hand. I know this wasn't how you imagined it. The whirlwind romance, the quick wedding. But sometimes life surprises us. Your father and I barely knew each other when we married. That's not exactly reassuring, Mother. A flicker of something, pain? Regret, crossed her mother's face. No, I suppose it's not. She squeezed Eleanor's hand. But we made it work. You will too. Eleanor wanted to ask, were you happy? Did you love him? Or did you just learn to live with it? But she knew the answer would break something between them that couldn't be repaired. He's giving me a cottage, she said instead. On the estate. My own space. Her mother's eyebrows rose. That's unusual. He wants me to be comfortable. Or he wants to avoid you. Probably both. Her mother studied her. Eleanor, if you don't want to do this. I signed the prenup. It's done. Prenups can be voided. If you're having second thoughts. I'm not. Eleanor pulled her hand back. I'm fine. Really. Sebastian and I understand each other. This is going to work. Another lie. But she was getting so good at them. Chapter 4. The week before forever. 3 days before the wedding, Eleanor woke to find her mother sitting at the foot of her bed, holding a garment bag. The dress is ready, her mother said softly. I thought you might want to try it on. One last time. Eleanor sat up, pushing hair from her face. Outside, rain streaked the windows. The weather forecast for Friday was dismal, typical British autumn, all gray skies and the threat of worse. What time is it? 7. I couldn't sleep. Her mother smoothed the garment bag. Neither could you, apparently. I heard you pacing at 3 in the morning. Eleanor had been reading the prenup. Again. Memorizing every clause, every exit route. Looking for loopholes she knew didn't exist. Just whetting nerves, she said. Of course. Her mother stood. Come. Let's see if the alterations worked. The dress had been her grandmother's, then her mother's. Ivory silk, simple lines, a cathedral train that seemed to stretch forever. The seamstress had taken it in, updated the neckline, removed decades of yellowing from the fabric. It was beautiful in that timeless way that made Eleanor want to cry. Her mother zipped her in, adjusted the train. They stood together in front of the full-length mirror, 3 generations of Ashford brides compressed into one reflection. You look exactly like I did, her mother whispered. Like your grandmother. Eleanor saw it too. The same height, the same coloring, the same aristocratic features that had been bred for centuries to look good in pearls and tiaras. She was exactly what she'd been designed to be, decorative, dutiful, disposable. Did you love him? Eleanor asked suddenly. Father. When you married him. Her mother's hands stilled on the dress. That's a complicated question. It's a yes or no question. No, it's not. Her mother met her eyes in the mirror. I admired him. I respected the position he would hold. I understood what was expected of me. But did you love him? Her mother was quiet for a long moment. I learned to. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. Her mother's voice was steady. But sometimes it's better. Love can fade, Eleanor. Respect and partnership, those can grow. Eleanor thought about Sebastian, about the careful distance they maintained, about the cottage that was both gift and barrier. What if it doesn't grow? She asked. What if we just exist side by side for 2 years and then walk away? Her mother's hands tightened on her shoulders. 2 years. Too late. Eleanor realized her mistake. The prenup, she said quickly. It has a review clause after 2 years. Standard in these situations. These situations. Her mother turned her around, searched her face. Eleanor, what exactly have you agreed to? A marriage. Same as you. Don't lie to me. Not about this. Eleanor held her mother's gaze. Saw the fear there, the understanding that was slowly dawning. I'm saving Blackmere. Isn't that what you wanted? Not like this. How then? What other option was there? Eleanor's voice rose. Let the bank take everything. Watch father's humiliation. Let 400 years end because I was too proud to make the same sacrifice every Ashford daughter has made. The difference is we didn't know we were sacrificing ourselves. We believed, her mother's voice broke. We believed it was real. And I know it's not, which is better, really. No illusions. No disappointment. Her mother's hand came up, cupped Eleanor's cheek. Oh, darling, that's the saddest thing you've ever said. Eleanor pulled away, started unzipping the dress. It's practical. Sebastian and I understand each other. We're both getting what we need. What you need is to be loved. I need financial independence. Freedom. The ability to choose my own life after this is over. After 2 years. Yes. Her mother sank onto the bed. Does he know? Your father. He helped negotiate the terms. Of course he did. Bitter now. And it didn't occur to him that he was selling his daughter. He was saving his legacy. They're not the same thing. Eleanor stepped out of the dress, careful with the train. Aren't they? You just said I look exactly like you, like grandmother. We're all just vessels for the Ashford name, aren't we? At least this way I get paid for it. Eleanor, I need to get dressed. Sebastian's coming at noon. Final walkthrough of the ceremony. Her mother stood, gathered the dress with shaking hands. At the door, she paused. I wanted better for you. I truly did. I know. Do you? Because sometimes I think you believe I wanted this. The duty, the performance, the marriage to a man who sees you as a means to an end. Didn't you, though? Want it for me? Her mother looked at her with tears in her eyes. No. I wanted you to escape. She left. Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed in her underwear, staring at the space where the dress had been. Her mother had wanted her to escape, and instead she'd walked directly into another cage. A nicer cage, maybe. One with a cottage and a time limit, but still a cage. 3 days. 3 days until she became Lady Vale. She wondered if her grandmother had felt this hollow on her wedding day. If her mother had stood in the same room, wearing that same dress, feeling the weight of history pressing down like water. Sebastian arrived at noon in a black car with tinted windows. He wore a suit, always a suit, and carried a leather portfolio that probably contained spreadsheets and timelines and the business plan for their marriage. Ready? He asked when Eleanor met him in the entrance hall. As I'll ever be. They walked through the ceremony together like choreographing a dance. The chapel was small, intimate, filled with flowers her mother had chosen. White roses everywhere, the Ashford signature. You'll enter here, the wedding coordinator said. A cheerful woman named Pamela who seemed oblivious to the tension. Your father will walk you down. Sebastian will be waiting at the altar with the vicar. They walked it through. Her father's arm, stiff and formal. The aisle that seemed miles long. Sebastian waiting, his face carefully neutral. Then the vows, Pamela continued. Traditional, or did you want to write your own? Traditional, Sebastian and Eleanor said simultaneously. Pamela beamed. Wonderful. So in sync already. That's a good sign. Eleanor caught Sebastian's eye. He looked as uncomfortable as she felt. They went through it all. The ring exchange, platinum bands. Simple, expensive. The signing of the register. The recessional. Every moment scripted, rehearsed, designed for photographs and witnesses. And then the reception in the great hall. Pamela finished. 200 guests, seated dinner, dancing. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. 200 witnesses to a lie. Eleanor felt sick. After Pamela left, Sebastian and Eleanor stood alone in the chapel. Rain drummed on the roof, steady and relentless. Are you all right? Sebastian asked. Fine. You don't look fine. I tried on the wedding dress this morning. Had a fight with my mother. Realized I'm about to legally bind myself to a stranger for money. So yes, Sebastian, I'm fantastic. He was quiet for a moment. Then, we can still call it off. Eleanor looked at him sharply. What? If you can't do this, we call it off. I'll find another way to handle the Heritage Board. Your father will have to deal with his debts. But you won't be trapped. You do that. I'm not a monster, Eleanor. I don't want a miserable wife. You don't want a wife at all. You want a prop. Fair point. He walked to the altar, ran his hand over the carved wood. My business partner called this morning. Asked if I was sure about Friday. Said there was still time to back out. What did you tell him? That I'm always sure. He turned to face her. But I'm not. Not about this. I'm good at business, at strategy, at seeing 3 moves ahead. But this. He gestured at the chapel, the flowers, the space where they would stand and make promises neither meant. I have no idea what I'm doing. The honesty startled her. Sebastian was always so controlled, so certain. Seeing him uncertain made him human in a way that was almost worse. Neither do I, Eleanor admitted. So we're both faking it. Apparently. Sebastian walked back to her. My mother used to say that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding the goal is worth the fear. He paused. Is this worth it to you? Really? Eleanor thought about Blackmere, about her parents, about the cottage waiting at Vale House. About 20 million pounds and the freedom it would buy. Yes, she said. Is it worth it to you? Yes. They stood in the chapel, 2 people about to make a mockery of vows that were supposed to be sacred. Outside, the rain intensified, beating against stained glass windows that had witnessed centuries of Ashford weddings. 3 days, Sebastian said. 3 days. Any last conditions? Concerns? Eleanor almost laughed. Beyond the obvious? Beyond the obvious. She thought about it, about what she actually needed from this arrangement besides money and time. I want honesty. Between us in private. No performance. Whatever we show the world is one thing, but when it's just us. The truth, Sebastian finished. Agreed? And I want you to promise that you won't make me regret this. I can't promise that. Why not? Because I might regret it too. But I can promise I'll do my best to make it bearable. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even particularly reassuring. But it was honest, and right now, that was worth more than pretty lies. All right, Eleanor said. Then I'll see you at the altar. See you at the altar. He left her alone in the chapel. She sat in the front pew, in the same seat where her grandmother had sat, where her mother had sat, where generations of Ashford women had waited for their lives to begin or end, depending on how you looked at it. 3 days. In 3 days, she would wear the dress and walk the aisle and promise forever to a man who'd promised her 2 years. Would smile for photographs and dance at her own wedding and pretend this was a fairy tale instead of a business transaction. And maybe, if she performed it well enough, she'd forget the difference. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She walked the halls of Blackmere in the dark, touching portraits of ancestors who'd made similar choices. The 3rd Earl, who'd married for land. The 7th Earl's daughter, who'd married to prevent a scandal. The 10th Earl, who'd married an American heiress to save the estate from bankruptcy. They'd all done what was necessary. They'd all survived. She found her father in his study, working late as always. He looked up when she appeared in the doorway. Can't sleep? He asked. No. He poured her a scotch without asking. She took it, sat across from him. Your mother told me about the prenup, he said. The 2-year clause. Did she? I wanted to say. He stopped, started again. I want you to know that I understand what you're doing. The sacrifice you're making. Do you? Yes. He met her eyes. And I'm grateful. More than I can say. Eleanor sipped the scotch. It burned. Are you proud of me, Father? For being so dutiful? Eleanor. Because I'm doing exactly what you raised me to do. Marrying well. Preserving the family name. Being useful. That's not fair. Isn't it? She set down the glass. You gamble with Blackmere and I'm paying the debt. That's fair. Her father looked older suddenly. Smaller. No. It's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's done now. The contracts are signed. The wedding is planned. There's no going back. I know. He reached across the desk, took her hand. If I could change it. But you can't. Eleanor pulled her hand back. And in 3 days, I'll stand in the chapel and smile and marry Sebastian Vale. And you'll walk me down the aisle and give me away like I'm property. And we'll all pretend this is normal. Eleanor. But she was already leaving. Walking back through halls that would soon belong to someone else. To Sebastian, who'd paid £8 million for the privilege of saving them. In 3 days, she would become Lady Vale. In 3 days, her real life, the one she'd been promised, the freedom she'd been guaranteed, would begin its 2-year countdown. She just had to survive the wedding first. Chapter 5. The Vows We Don't Mean. Eleanor woke on her wedding day to perfect silence. No rain against the windows. No wind in the trees. Just crystalline autumn stillness, the kind that felt like the world holding its breath. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling she'd stared at for 26 years, and thought, this is the last morning I'll wake up as Eleanor Ashford. A knock at the door. Sophie's voice. Elle? You awake? Unfortunately, Sophie entered carrying coffee and what looked like champagne. Breakfast of champions. Or brides. Same thing, really. Eleanor sat up, took the coffee. Sophie had arrived late last night from London, her only bridesmaid, her oldest friend. The one person who knew this was all wrong but loved her enough not to say it. How are you feeling? Sophie asked, perching on the edge of the bed. Like I'm about to make a terrible mistake. You could still run. I have a car. We could be in Scotland by evening. Eleanor almost laughed. And then what? Live in hiding. Watch my family lose everything. Better than watching you lose yourself. I'm not losing myself. I'm choosing a different version of myself. That's what people say when they're losing themselves. Eleanor sipped her coffee. Outside, she could hear activity, florists, caterers, the wedding coordinator's cheerful voice directing traffic. The machinery of matrimony grinding forward whether she was ready or not. He's not terrible, Eleanor said. Sebastian. He's actually decent. In his way. Decent men don't buy wives. He's not buying me. We're entering a partnership. Sophie gave her a look. Elle, I love you. So I'm going to say this once, and then I'll shut up and help you get married. This isn't a partnership. Partnerships are between equals. You're selling 2 years of your life to save a house that isn't even yours. It's my family's. It's your father's debt, his failure, his choice. Sophie took her hand. You don't owe him this. I owe myself the freedom that comes after. If you make it 2 years without losing who you are. Eleanor pulled her hand back. I need to get dressed. Sophie stood, headed for the door. I'll be downstairs. Yell if you need me. Or if you want that getaway car. Alone again, Eleanor walked to the window. The chapel was visible from here, small and perfect, draped in white roses. In 3 hours, she would walk through those doors. In 3 hours, everything would change. She wondered if Sebastian was awake yet, if he was having second thoughts, if he was standing in Vale House, staring at his own reflection, thinking about his mother and wondering if this was what she would have wanted. Probably not. Sebastian seemed like the type who never questioned his decisions, who moved forward with the same calculated precision he applied to business deals and architectural renovations. She envied him that certainty. The preparation was a blur of hands and voices. Her mother, directing the hairdresser. Sophie, holding the dress. The makeup artist, painting Eleanor's face into something bridal and unrecognizable. You look beautiful, her mother said, stepping back to assess. Eleanor looked in the mirror. The woman staring back was perfect. Hair swept into an elegant updo, makeup subtle but flawless, the dress fitting like it had been made for her. Which, technically, it had been. Just for a different her. A different era. I look like a stranger, Eleanor said. You look like a bride. Same thing. A knock at the door. Her father's voice. May I come in? Her mother opened it. The Earl of Blackmere stood in the doorway in morning dress, looking older than Eleanor had ever seen him. He stared at her for a long moment. You look just like your grandmother, he said softly. The day I married your mother, she wore that same dress. I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. Eleanor wanted to ask, Are you still? Was it worth it? But she knew the answer would break something between them that was already cracking. It's time, her mother said. The cars are waiting. The ride to the chapel took less than 5 minutes. Eleanor sat beside her father in the vintage Rolls-Royce, her train carefully arranged, her hands folded to keep them from shaking. Eleanor, her father said, I want you to know. Don't. Please. I need to say this. I need you to understand that I never wanted. Father. Stop. Eleanor looked at him. If you apologize now, if you acknowledge what you're asking me to do, I won't be able to walk through those doors. So please, just don't. He nodded, jaw tight. They rode the rest of the way in silence. The chapel was full. 200 guests, exactly as planned. Eleanor recognized faces from London society, business associates of Sebastian's, distant Ashford relatives who'd emerged from obscurity for the spectacle. They all turned as she entered, a sea of judgment and curiosity. And at the end of the aisle, Sebastian. He wore morning dress, gray tailcoat, pale waistcoat, perfectly tied cravat. His dark hair was combed back for once. He looked like he belonged in this world of aristocratic tradition, like he'd been born to stand at English altars and historic chapels. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Not love, not even affection, but recognition, understanding. We're both here. We're both going through with this. The music started. Pachelbel's canon, predictable and perfect. Her father offered his arm. Eleanor took it, and they began the long walk. Each step felt surreal. The faces blurred. The flowers smelled too sweet. The whole thing felt like a play she was watching rather than starring in. She focused on Sebastian, on the way he watched her approach with that same careful neutrality. When they reached the altar, the vicar smiled. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" "I do," her father said. His voice cracked slightly. He placed her hand in Sebastian's. Sebastian's fingers closed around hers, warm, solid, real. This was happening. This was actually happening. "Dearly beloved," the vicar began. Eleanor stopped listening. She was too aware of Sebastian beside her, of the weight of the dress, of the 200 witnesses watching them perform matrimony. She heard her own voice saying, "I do," like it belonged to someone else. Heard Sebastian say the same. Felt him slide the ring onto her finger. Platinum, cold, expensive. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the vicar said. "You may kiss the bride." Sebastian turned to her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then he leaned in, and Eleanor met him halfway. The kiss was brief, chaste, appropriate for a chapel full of strangers. His lips were warm. It meant nothing and everything. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. "Are you okay?" They seemed to ask. "No," she wanted to say. "But I will be." The organ swelled. They turned to face the congregation. The vicar presented them. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Mr. and Mrs. Sebastian Vale." Mrs. Sebastian Vale. Not even Lady Vale. American husbands didn't confer titles. She'd lost her name entirely, absorbed into his. They walked back down the aisle together, Sebastian's hand firm on her arm. Guests applauded. Cameras flashed. Someone threw rose petals that caught in Eleanor's train. Outside the chapel, Sebastian stopped. They were supposed to pose for photographs, but first he turned to her, voice low enough that only she could hear. "You did it," he said. "So did you. How do you feel?" "Like I just signed my life away." "You?" "Same." He almost smiled. "Ready for the next part?" The reception, the dancing, the speeches, hours of performance ahead. "Do I have a choice?" Eleanor asked. "No." "Then I'm ready." The great hall at Blackmere had been transformed. Crystal chandeliers blazed with light. Tables were draped in ivory silk. Flowers cascaded from every surface. It was beautiful, elegant, exactly what a society wedding should be. Eleanor and Sebastian sat at the head table like royalty, accepting congratulations from a parade of guests. Everyone wanted to meet the American billionaire who'd married into the aristocracy. Everyone wanted to tell Eleanor how lucky she was. "He's gorgeous," one of her mother's friends whispered. "And that American accent. How romantic." "He's very generous," another added. "I heard he's completely renovating Vale House, sparing no expense." "You've done well for yourself, dear." Eleanor smiled until her face hurt, accepted compliments about her dress, her flowers, her choice of husband, performed the role of blushing bride, so convincingly she almost believed it herself. Sebastian played his part too, kept his hand on her back, introduced her as "my wife," with what sounded like pride, looked at her with practiced affection during the speeches. Her father's toast was mercifully brief. "To my daughter and her new husband. May they find happiness together." Sebastian's business partner gave a longer speech, full of jokes about Sebastian finally settling down. "I never thought I'd see the day when Sebastian Vale would get married. But when you meet the right person, you know." And clearly he knew. The lice settled over the room like snow. When it was time for the first dance, Sebastian led Eleanor to the center of the floor. The band started playing something slow and traditional. Sebastian's hand found her waist. Her hand rested on his shoulder. "You're very good at this," Eleanor murmured as they swayed. "At dancing. At lying. So are you." He spun her gently. "We make a good team." "Is that what we are?" "A team." "What would you call it?" "A performance." "Same thing." They danced in silence for a moment. Around them, guests watched and smiled, seeing what they wanted to see. A beautiful couple, a fairy tale, a happy ending. "My mother cried during the ceremony," Sebastian said suddenly. Eleanor looked up at him. "Your mother is dead." "I know. But I kept thinking, if she could see this, she'd cry." Happy tears. Proud tears. Her son, marrying into the family whose house she used to clean. His voice was tight. "It's everything she wanted for me." "Is it everything you wanted?" Sebastian looked down at her. "I wanted to belong. To prove I was good enough. This." He gestured at the room, the guests, the grandeur. "This is belonging." "No," Eleanor said softly. "This is pretending to belong. There's a difference." Something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty. Maybe pain. "Maybe," he said. "But it's the closest I'll get." The song ended. Guests applauded. Sebastian released her, stepped back, and the moment, whatever it had been, was gone. The rest of the reception blurred together. Dancing with her father, with Sebastian's business partner, with distant cousins and family friends. Cutting the cake, smiling for photographs, accepting congratulations until the words lost meaning. At 10 o'clock, Eleanor found Sophie in the garden, smoking a cigarette. "You're not supposed to smoke," Eleanor said. "You're not supposed to marry strangers for money. Here we are." Sophie offered her the cigarette. Eleanor took it, inhaled, coughed. "I did it." "You did. So why do I feel like I just made the biggest mistake of my life?" Sophie was quiet for a long moment. "Because you probably did. But it's done now. So all you can do is survive it. 2 years. 2 years." Sophie squeezed her hand. "And then you're free." At midnight, it was time to leave. The tradition was for the bride and groom to depart together, drive off to their honeymoon or their new life. Eleanor changed out of the wedding dress into a simple blue dress, left the chapel shoes for something she could actually walk in. When she came downstairs, Sebastian was waiting by the car. "Ready?" he asked. "Where are we going?" "Vale House." "Where else?" "Right. Her new home. Her new life. Starting tonight." They drove in silence, the dark countryside rolling past. Eleanor watched the landscape, trying to memorize the route from her old life to her new one. When they pulled up to Vale House, every window was blazing with light. "I had the staff prepare everything," Sebastian said. "Your cottage is ready. Your things were delivered this afternoon. You thought of everything." "I tried to." He walked her to the cottage, carried her bag despite her protests. At the door, he stopped. "This is yours," he said. "Completely yours. I won't come in unless you invite me." Eleanor looked at the cottage, her space, her sanctuary. Then at Sebastian, this stranger who was now legally her husband. "Thank you," she said, "for this, for keeping your word." "I always keep my word." He paused. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we can figure out what normal looks like." "Normal!" "Or whatever approximation we can manage." He left her there. Eleanor watched him walk back to the main house, his figure getting smaller in the distance. Then she went inside. The cottage was perfect, exactly as she'd imagined, but better. Her books on the shelves, art on the walls, a fire crackling in the hearth. A vase of white roses sat on the table with a note in unfamiliar handwriting. "Welcome home. S." Eleanor sat on the sofa, still wearing her blue dress, still wearing the wedding ring that felt foreign on her finger. Mrs. Sebastian Vale, Lady of Vale House. Married. She'd done it. Traded her name and her freedom for financial security and a time limit. Made the same bargain her grandmother made, her mother made, generations of women made. The only difference was she knew exactly what she traded. And in 2 years, 730 days, she'd get it back. She just had to survive being married first. Chapter 6. Separate Lives. Eleanor woke in the cottage to unfamiliar silence. No traffic from the London streets. No creaking floorboards from Blackmere's ancient infrastructure. Just birds and the distant sound of gardeners working on the grounds. She was married. The ring on her finger proved it. Her phone showed 8 messages from Sophie, 3 from her mother, and 1 from an unknown number that turned out to be Sebastian. Staff will bring breakfast at 9 if you'd like. Or you can come to the main house. Your choice. Eleanor looked at the time. 8:47. She typed back. I'll come to the house. Give me 20 minutes. She showered, dressed in jeans and a cashmere sweater, her own clothes in her own space, which felt like a small rebellion, and walked the gravel path to the main house. Vale House looked different in daylight. Less imposing, more like an actual home. The renovations were nearly complete. The scaffolding was gone, the windows cleaned, the honey stone gleaming in the autumn sun. Sebastian answered the door himself. He wore jeans and a navy sweater, his hair still damp from a shower. He looked younger without the suit armor. More approachable. Morning, he said. Morning. They stood in awkward silence. Husband and wife. Strangers who'd signed a contract. Coffee. Sebastian offered. Please. The kitchen was enormous. State-of-the-art appliances mixed with the original AGA stove, marble countertops, and windows overlooking the gardens. Sebastian poured coffee from a French press, handed her a mug. How did you sleep? He asked. Fine. The cottage is perfect. Thank you again for the roses. You're welcome. He leaned against the counter. We should probably discuss logistics. How this is going to work. Right. Logistics. Sebastian pulled out his phone, opened what looked like a shared calendar. I travel frequently for work, usually Monday through Thursday. Sometimes I'm gone for weeks if I'm meeting with international clients. So I'll barely see you. That's the idea, isn't it? He looked up. But when I'm here, we should have dinner together a few times a week. Maintain the appearance of a normal marriage for the staff. The staff. Housekeeper, cook, gardeners, maintenance. They're all discreet, but we should still be careful. Eleanor sipped her coffee. It was excellent. Dark roast. Perfectly brewed. What have you told them? About us. That we're newlyweds who value our privacy. You have your cottage for your work. I said you're an art consultant, building a private practice. I have my office in the East Wing for business. We're both busy, independent people. Independent people who happen to be married. Exactly. Sebastian set down his phone. There will be social obligations. Dinner parties, charity galas, heritage board functions. I'll give you advance notice when possible. How much notice? A week, usually. Sometimes less if something urgent comes up. Eleanor thought about her old life at Sotheby's, where she'd had control over her schedule, her time, her choices. And if I have plans, then we work around them. This goes both ways, Eleanor. I'm not your jailer. Just my husband. Just your husband, he agreed. For 2 years. The reminder hung between them. 2 years. 729 days left. I want to work, Eleanor said suddenly. You mentioned starting a gallery or consulting. I want to do that. Actually do it, not just pretend. Then do it. You're serious? Why wouldn't I be? The arrangement gives you financial independence. Use it. He refilled his coffee. Actually, that reminds me. Your account was set up yesterday. I'll send you the details. How much? 50,000 a month. As agreed in the prenup. Eleanor nearly dropped her mug. 50,000 pounds? A month. Is that not enough? Sebastian, that's, she did the mental math, 600,000 a year, just as allowance. On top of the settlement she'd get after 2 years. That's more than I made in 2 years at Sotheby's. Then you were being underpaid. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. Use it however you want. Invest it, save it, start your gallery. I don't care. It's yours. Eleanor stared at him. This man who'd bought himself an aristocratic wife was now giving her enough money to never need anyone again. The contradiction made her head spin. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me. It's contractual. But his voice was gentler than his words. The rest of the day was strange. Eleanor unpacked her remaining boxes, arranged her books, tried to make the cottage feel like hers. Sebastian disappeared into his office, emerged once for lunch, then vanished again. At 6, a knock at the cottage door. The housekeeper, Mrs. Davies, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a Welsh accent. "Mr. Vale asked me to let you know dinner will be at 8, she said. "In the small dining room. Unless you prefer to eat in the cottage." "No, the dining room is fine." "Lovely. And Mrs. Vale, if you need anything at all, just ring. I live in the cottage at the south gate." Mrs. Vale. Eleanor still wasn't used to hearing it. At 8, she walked back to the main house. Found Sebastian in what he'd called the small dining room, though it was larger than Eleanor's entire London flat had been. The table was set for 2, candles lit, wine breathing in a decanter. "This is very formal," Eleanor said. Mrs. Davies insisted. Apparently first dinner at home is important. He pulled out her chair. "Humor me." She sat. He poured wine. They ate duck prepared by a cook Eleanor hadn't met, served by Mrs. Davies, who was trying very hard to pretend this was a normal newlywed dinner. "How was your day?" Sebastian asked, and it was so absurdly domestic that Eleanor almost laughed. "I unpacked, organized my books, avoided thinking about the fact that I'm married to someone I barely know." "Sounds productive." "You." "Conference calls with Tokyo, reviewed contracts. Avoided thinking about the fact that I'm married to someone I barely know." This time Eleanor did laugh. "We're quite the pair." "We are." He studied her over his wine glass. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Why art history? Of all things you could have studied, why that?" Eleanor was surprised by the question. No one had asked her that in years. "Because art is the only thing humans make that's meant to outlast us. We build buildings, but they crumble. We write books, but languages change. Art just persists. It speaks across centuries without translation. That's beautiful. It's impractical. My father wanted me to study law or business, something useful. But you didn't." "No. I chose the one thing that was completely mine." She paused, until I had to leave it to save his house. Sebastian was quiet for a moment. "You could go back. After. Open your own auction house. Work as an independent consultant. You'll have the capital. Maybe." Eleanor pushed food around her plate. "Or maybe I'm done cataloging other people's legacies. Maybe I want to build my own." "Then build it. Just like that." "Why not?" Sebastian leaned back. "You have 2 years and unlimited resources. Build whatever you want." Eleanor looked at him. This man who'd married her for a heritage board seat, who was offering her the freedom to become whoever she wanted to be. The contradiction was dizzying. "What about you?" she asked. "After 2 years, after you have your voting rights and your renovated house, what then?" "I don't know." He said it honestly. "I've never thought past getting what I want. I'm not sure what happens when I actually have it." "That's sad." "Is it?" "Yes. Because wanting something is easier than having it. At least when you're chasing something, you have direction." Sebastian's expression shifted. "You're more insightful than I expected. You're more human than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" "I'm not sure yet." Mrs. Davies cleared their plates, served dessert, lemon tart with cream. When she left, Sebastian poured more wine. "We should establish ground rules," he said, "for the next 2 years. All right. Honesty in private, performance in public. We've agreed to that." "Yes." "Separate lives, but coordination on social obligations." "Agreed." "And..." He hesitated. "I think we should try to be friends." Eleanor nearly choked on her wine. "Friends. We're going to be living in proximity for 2 years. We'll see each other regularly. We're going to attend events together, meet each other's friends and colleagues. It would be easier if we actually liked each other. You can't manufacture friendship." "No. But you can be open to it." He met her eyes. "I'm not suggesting we become best friends. Just civil. Cordial. Maybe even pleasant." Eleanor considered it. The alternative was 2 years of cold warfare, of treating each other like adversaries. That sounded exhausting. "Friends who are married for business reasons," she said. "That's what you're proposing." "Yes. It's insane. Most of this is insane." "Fair point." Eleanor lifted her glass. "All right, Sebastian Vale. I'll try to be your friend. I'll try to be yours." They clinked glasses. It felt like a treaty, a ceasefire in a war neither had wanted to fight. Later that night, back in her cottage, Eleanor video-called Sophie. How's married life? Sophie asked, already 3 glasses of wine deep by the look of it. Weird. He's not what I expected. Good weird or bad weird? I don't know yet. Eleanor curled up on the sofa. He's giving me £50,000 a month. Sophie nearly spit out her wine. I'm sorry, what? As an allowance. It's in the prenup. Plus I get the cottage as my own space, and he wants to be friends. Friends. His suggestion, not mine. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Elle, be careful. Of what? Of forgetting this is temporary. Of letting him be nice to you and thinking it means something it doesn't. I'm not forgetting anything. This is a business arrangement. We both know that. Do you? Because it's starting to sound like he's husband ing pretty hard for someone who bought you. He didn't buy me. We entered a partnership. Same thing. It's not. Eleanor stopped. Took a breath. I know what this is, sophomore. I'm not losing sight of that. Okay. But Sophie didn't sound convinced. Just guard your heart. Please. Because men like Sebastian Vale don't marry for love. And when the 2 years are up, he's going to let you go like you never mattered. I know. Do you? Yes. Eleanor looked at her wedding ring, platinum and cold. I'm not falling for my contractual husband. I promise. After they hung up, Eleanor sat in the silence of her cottage. Her beautiful, perfect cottage with her books and her art and her space. Her prison made comfortable. Her cage lined with silk. Sebastian had been kind today. Generous. Almost warm. But Sophie was right. It didn't mean anything. In 2 years, they'd shake hands and walk away. She'd take her £20 million and her freedom, and he'd keep his house and his heritage board seat. This was always the plan. So why did the cottage suddenly feel lonely? Eleanor pushed the thought away. She was tired. It had been an overwhelming few days. She'd just gotten married to a stranger, moved to a new house, started a new life. Of course, she felt disoriented. In the morning, she'd start working on her gallery plans. She'd use Sebastian's money to build something of her own. She'd fill the next 2 years with purpose and preparation for the freedom that waited on the other side. She wasn't going to waste time wondering if her contractual husband might become something more. That way lay danger. That way lay heartbreak. Chapter 7. The performance refined. 3 weeks into marriage, Eleanor had established a routine. Mornings in the cottage, coffee on the terrace overlooking the walled garden. Afternoons researching gallery spaces in London, meeting with commercial estate agents via video call. Evenings alone unless Sebastian was home, in which case they'd have dinner together and talk about their days like normal people. It was almost comfortable. Almost normal. Almost a lie she could believe. You're going to love this one, the estate agent said, her face pixelated on Eleanor's laptop screen. Mayfair location, 2 floors, original Victorian features. The current tenant is a solicitor's office, but the lease is up in January. Eleanor studied the photos. High ceilings, good natural light, the kind of space that could showcase art without overwhelming it. What's the asking price? $15,000 a month. Eleanor didn't flinch. A month ago, that number would have been impossible. Now it was barely a third of her allowance. I'd like to see it. Can you arrange a viewing? Of course, Mrs. Vale. How's Thursday? Mrs. Vale. She was getting used to the name, which worried her. After the call ended, Eleanor walked to the main house. Sebastian had been in London all week for meetings, but he texted that morning that he'd be back for dinner. She found Mrs. Davies in the kitchen, preparing what looked like enough food for 6 people. Just the 2 of you tonight, Mrs. Davies said, reading Eleanor's expression. But Mr. Vale mentioned he's bringing a guest. His business partner, I believe. Mr. Chun. Eleanor's stomach tightened. Their first dinner guest. Their first real performance, as a married couple in front of someone who knew Sebastian well. What time? She asked. 7:30. Will you be wearing anything special? Eleanor looked down at her jeans and sweater. I should probably change. Probably wise, dear. At 7:15, Eleanor stood in her cottage bedroom, staring at her wardrobe. What did one wear to dinner with your fake husband's business partner? She settled on a simple black dress, elegant but not trying too hard, and her grandmother's pearls. She was applying lipstick when her phone buzzed. Sebastian, Chen's here early. Come when ready. No rush. Eleanor took a breath. This was it. Their first test. She walked to the main house, her heels clicking on the gravel. Through the drawing room windows, she could see Sebastian and another man, Asian, mid-30s, expensive suit, standing by the fireplace with drinks. Sebastian saw her approach and came to open the door himself. "You look beautiful," he said, and she couldn't tell if it was performance or truth. "Thank you." He took her hand, warm, familiar now, and led her inside. "David, this is my wife, Eleanor." "Eleanor, David Chun, my business partner and the man who keeps me from making terrible decisions." David stepped forward, smiling. "Finally, I've been waiting to meet the woman who convinced Sebastian to get married. I thought it was impossible." "So did I," Eleanor said, shaking his hand. David laughed. "I like her already. She's honest." They moved to the dining room. Sebastian held Eleanor's chair, his hand briefly touching her shoulder, a small gesture that felt rehearsed but looked natural. They were getting good at this. Over the first course, Mrs. Davies's excellent soup, David asked Eleanor about her work. "Sebastian mentioned you're opening a gallery?" "Hoping to. I'm looking at spaces in London." "What kind of art?" "Modern and contemporary, with a focus on emerging artists. The auction houses deal in established names and high prices. I want to showcase artists before they become inaccessible." David nodded approvingly. "Democratizing art. I like it." "Don't encourage her," Sebastian said, but he was smiling. "She's already planning to bankrupt me." "You can afford it," Eleanor shot back. "Fair point." The ease of their banter surprised her. They'd fallen into a rhythm over the past 3 weeks, a comfortable back and forth that felt less like acting and more like friendship. David watched them with interest. "How did you two meet?" Sebastian's been maddeningly vague about the whole thing. Eleanor glanced at Sebastian. "They'd rehearsed this." "A charity gala," Sebastian said smoothly. 6 months ago. Eleanor was there representing Sotheby's. "I was there because my assistant makes me attend these things." "I was cataloging donations," Eleanor continued. "Sebastian bought a Hockney sketch for an obscene amount of money." "It was for charity," Sebastian protested. "It was showing off." "Maybe both." David laughed. "And then what?" "Love at first sight." Eleanor felt Sebastian's hand find hers under the table. The touch was light, probably invisible to David, but it steadied her. "Not at first sight," Sebastian said. "We talked about architecture. Eleanor has strong opinions about what I was doing to this house. I said you were committing historical vandalism. She called me a Philistine with money. I stand by that assessment." "And yet you married him," David said, grinning. Eleanor looked at Sebastian. For a moment, she forgot they were performing. "He grew on me." Something flickered in Sebastian's eyes. "She grew on me too." The moment held. Then David cleared his throat, and they both looked away. Over the main course, perfectly cooked lamb, David told stories about Sebastian in the early days of their company. He was impossible. Wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat, just worked constantly. I had to literally drag him out of the office. "I'm still impossible," Sebastian said. "But now you have Eleanor to drag you out." David raised his glass. "To Eleanor for achieving what I never could," making Sebastian Vale take a day off. They toasted. Eleanor sipped her wine and wondered if Sebastian had taken any days off since the wedding. She didn't think so. He still disappeared into his office for 12-hour stretches, still took calls at midnight from Tokyo and Sydney. "How are you finding Vale House?" David asked Eleanor. "Big change from London." "It's beautiful." "The cottage especially. It's my own space for work." David's eyebrows rose. "Separate cottages? That's very modern." "We're very modern people," Sebastian said smoothly. "Eleanor needs space for her gallery work. I need space for my calls." "It works." "If you say so." David didn't look entirely convinced. "Though I have to say, Sebastian, you seem different. Lighter somehow." "I'm married. I'm supposed to be happy." "Are you?" "Happy." Sebastian glanced at Eleanor. "Yes, I am." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. She wanted to ask, "Are you really? Or is this just part of the performance?" But David was there, watching, believing their story. So Eleanor just smiled and said, "So am I." Another lie. Or maybe not entirely a lie. She wasn't miserable. The cottage was perfect, the allowance was generous, and Sebastian was not terrible. In fact, he was surprisingly good company when he was home. But happiness? That felt like the wrong word for this strange arrangement. After dinner, they moved to the drawing room for coffee. David and Sebastian talked business, something about a merger in Singapore, while Eleanor pretended to follow along. She was good at that now, the pretending. At 10, David stood to leave. I should go. Early flight to Frankfurt tomorrow. I'll walk you out, Sebastian said. At the door, David pulled Sebastian into a hug. She's good for you, mate. I mean it. Don't screw this up. I'll try not to. And Eleanor, David turned to her. If he works too much or forgets to be human, you have my number. I'll set him straight. Thank you, David. When the car drove away, Sebastian and Eleanor stood in the doorway, the night air cold around them. That went well, Sebastian said. He believed us. Of course he did. We're very convincing. Eleanor looked at him. Are we? Or are we just getting better at lying? Sebastian's expression was unreadable. Maybe both. They stood in silence. Then Sebastian said, Thank you. For tonight. For playing the part. It's what we agreed to. I know. But still. Thank you. He walked back toward his office wing. Eleanor returned to her cottage. Only when she was inside, door locked, did she let herself process what had happened. They convinced David, had been warm and natural and couple-like, had touched casually, bantered easily, looked at each other with something that resembled affection. And the terrifying part was how easy it had been, how little it had felt like acting. Eleanor changed into pajamas, made tea, tried to read. But David's words kept echoing. She's good for you. Don't screw this up. As if this was real. As if they were a real couple with a real future. But they weren't. In 706 days, they'd shake hands and walk away. That was the deal. So why did that thought make her chest hurt? The next morning, Eleanor had an email from Sebastian. David was impressed. Said you were sharp and real and nothing like the vapid socialites I usually meet. High praise from him. Also, your gallery viewing on Thursday. I'd like to come with you, if that's all right. I know something about commercial real estate. Might be useful. S. Eleanor stared at the email. He wanted to come to London with her. To help with her gallery. It was practical. He was a businessman. Of course he'd have insight about leases and negotiations. This wasn't romantic. This was just friendly. They'd agreed to be friends. She typed back, Thursday works. Meet at Paddington at 10? His response came immediately, perfect. I'll drive us. See you then. Eleanor closed her laptop and walked to the window. Outside, autumn was deepening, the trees turning gold and red, the light slanting lower each day. In 7 months, it would be spring. In 18 months, summer again. In 2 years, she'd be free. The timeline stretched ahead like a map to somewhere she wasn't sure she wanted to go anymore. Stop it, she told herself. You're not falling for him. This is a business arrangement. The fact that he's kind and interesting and occasionally makes you laugh doesn't change what this is. But as she watched him walk across the lawn toward his office, phone pressed to his ear, she wondered if she was lying to herself. And if she was, what that meant for the 706 days she had left. Thursday morning, Eleanor met Sebastian at the main house. He was wearing jeans and a leather jacket, looking less like a billionaire and more like someone who might actually be her husband. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. The drive to London took 2 hours. They talked about nothing important. The weather, the renovations at Vale House, David's merger in Singapore. But the conversation flowed easily, naturally. Can I ask you something? Sebastian said as they hit traffic on the M40. Yes. Why a gallery? You could do anything. Consult for museums, work for another auction house, start a foundation. Why this? Eleanor thought about it. Because at Sotheby's, I was always serving someone else's vision. The collectors, the sellers, the house itself. I want to build something that's mine, where I decide what matters, what's worth showing. Control. Maybe. Or maybe just agency. Choice. Sebastian nodded slowly. I understand that. Do you? That's why I bought Vale House. I could have lived anywhere, bought any property. But I wanted the one place that told me I didn't belong. And then I wanted to make it mine. Eleanor looked at him. Did it work? Do you feel like you belong? No. He said it simply, honestly. But I'm working on it. The Mayfair space was everything the photos had promised. Eleanor walked through it slowly, imagining where she'd hang pieces, how she'd use the light, where the reception desk would go. Sebastian hung back, letting her explore. But when the estate agent started discussing terms, he stepped in. 15,000 is too high for an unfinished space, he said. You're asking her to take on build-out costs on top of rent. 12,000, and you cover the first 3 months while she does renovations. The agent hesitated. I'd have to check with the owner. Check. We'll wait. Eleanor stared at him. He just saved her £36,000 without blinking. The agent stepped away to make a call. Sebastian turned to Eleanor. Sorry. Should have asked first. I tend to negotiate automatically. No, it's thank you. I wouldn't have thought to ask. That's what business partners are for. Partners. Not husband and wife. Partners. The agent returned. The owner agrees to your terms. Sebastian looked at Eleanor. Your call. Eleanor looked around the space one more time. Saw her future there. Opening night. Champagne. Artists nervous and excited. Collectors discovering new work. Her vision. Her choice. I'll take it, she said. On the drive home, Eleanor felt lighter than she had in weeks. She had a gallery. An actual space. Something that was hers. Thank you, she said to Sebastian. For coming. For helping with the negotiation. You're welcome. He glanced at her. When do you open? March, probably. After renovations. I'd like to come. To the opening. You don't have to. I'd like to, he repeated. If that's all right. Eleanor studied his profile. Yes. It's all right. They drove in comfortable silence. When they pulled up to Vale House, Sebastian turned to her. Eleanor, can I ask you something? Yes. Are we? He hesitated, which was unlike him. Are we doing okay? With this arrangement? I think so. Why? Because David said something last night. About not screwing this up. And I realized I don't actually know if you're satisfied with how things are going. Eleanor thought about the cottage, the allowance, the dinners, the easy conversations. I'm not miserable if that's what you're asking. That's a low bar. It's honest. Sebastian nodded. Good. Because I'm not miserable either. Which is strange, because I expected to be. Why? Because this was supposed to be purely transactional. But it's... He searched for words. It's more comfortable than I anticipated. Comfortable. That was one word for it. Dangerous was another. We agreed to be friends, Eleanor reminded him. Maybe we're succeeding. Maybe. He looked at her directly. Would you want to have dinner tonight? Not because we have to. Just because. Eleanor knew she should say no. Should maintain the boundaries they'd established. But instead she said, yes. I'd like that. His smile was genuine. Good. 7:30. 7:30. She went to her cottage. Changed clothes, pretended to work, tried not to think about how much she was looking forward to dinner. This was supposed to be temporary. A business arrangement with a time limit. So why was she starting to forget that? Chapter 8. Cracks in the foundation. The Heritage Board dinner was in 2 weeks, and Eleanor was dreading it. It's important, Sebastian said over breakfast at the main house. He'd been home for 5 days straight, unusual for him, and they'd fallen into a pattern of morning coffee together before he disappeared into his office. The board will be watching us. Looking for cracks. Then we'd better not show them any. Exactly. He refilled her coffee. You'll need a gown. Something formal. I can have my assistant arrange. I can buy my own dress, Sebastian. I know you can. I'm just offering to help. Eleanor softened. Sorry. I'm just nervous. About the dinner? About performing in front of people who matter to you. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they see through us? Sebastian reached across the table, covered her hand with his. The gesture had become natural over the past month. They won't. You're brilliant at this. At dinner with David, you were perfect. David likes me. The Heritage Board wants to find reasons to exclude you. Then we'll give them no reasons. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Eleanor, I trust you. The words hit harder than they should have. Trust. In a relationship built on contracts and timelines, trust felt dangerously real. Eleanor pulled her hand back gently. I should go. Gallery contractors are coming today to discuss renovations. How's that going? Expensive, but exciting. She stood. Dinner tonight. Can't. Conference call with Sydney at 7. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. She walked back to the cottage, trying to ignore the disappointment. He was busy. This was normal. They weren't actually married, they just played the part sometimes. But her calendar showed they'd had dinner together 12 of the last 14 nights. Had spent last Saturday walking the grounds while he explained his plans for the gardens. Had watched a film together on Wednesday when rain kept them both inside. They were spending more time together, not less. And Eleanor was starting to forget why that was dangerous. The dress shopping trip was Sophie's idea. You need a proper gown, Sophie had insisted over the phone. And you need someone who'll tell you if you look like you're trying too hard. I'm coming to London. Meet me at Harrods. They met on Saturday. Sophie took one look at Eleanor and said, You look different. Different how? Happier. Less miserable arranged marriage. More actual wife energy. Eleanor felt her defenses rise. I'm not. It's just, we're getting along. As friends. Friends who have dinner together every night. Not every night. Most nights, then. And he comes to London with you. And negotiates your lease. Very friendly. He's helping me with my business. It's practical. Sophie steered her toward the evening wear section. I love you, so I'm going to say this with love. You're falling for him. I'm not. You are. And that's going to destroy you when this ends. Eleanor stopped walking. I'm not falling for him. We've established a good working relationship. A friendship. That's all. Is it? Yes. Sophie studied her face. All right. But guard your heart. Please. Because when those 2 years are up, he's going to walk away like you never existed. That was the deal. Eleanor knew she was right. The prenup was clear. After 2 years, they divorced. Clean break. No strings. Sebastian would get his Heritage Board seat. She'd get her £20 million, and they'd both move on. This warmth between them, this easy companionship, it wasn't real. It was just making the transaction more pleasant. I know what this is, Eleanor said firmly. Now help me find a dress that says, I belong here without saying I'm trying too hard. They found it 2 hours later, midnight blue silk, elegant lines, sophisticated without being showy. Eleanor tried it on and barely recognized herself. You look like a duchess, Sophie said. I look like I'm playing dress up. Same thing, really. Sophie zipped her up. But you wear it well. Sebastian's going to lose his mind. Sebastian doesn't care what I wear. Keep telling yourself that. The week before the Heritage Board dinner, Sebastian was gone. Singapore, then Tokyo, then Sydney. He called once, late at night her time, early morning his. How's the gallery? He asked. His voice sounded tired. Good. The contractors started demolition yesterday. It's chaos, but exciting chaos. Send me photos. Why? Because I want to see what you're building. Eleanor pulled up the photos on her phone, sent them. Heard him laugh on the other end of the line. It looks like a war zone, he said. It's going to be beautiful. I believe you. A pause. I miss the cottage. The admission caught her off guard. You miss your house. I miss having dinner with someone. Hotel rooms are lonely. Eleanor's chest tightened. When do you get back? Friday. Day before the dinner. Cutting it close. I know. But I'll be there. Another pause. Eleanor. Yes. Thank you. For doing this. For making this whole thing bearable. After they hung up, Eleanor sat in the cottage for a long time, phone in hand. He missed having dinner with her. Not just dinner. Dinner with her. This was getting complicated. Sebastian returned Friday afternoon, looking exhausted. Eleanor met him at the main house. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. Very romantic. I'm not trying to be romantic. Clearly. But he was smiling. Give me an hour to shower and pretend to be human. Then can we rehearse for tomorrow? They spent the evening going over everything. Names of board members, their backgrounds, their pet causes. Sebastian quizzed her until she knew them all. Lord Ashworth, pretentious, loves Victorian architecture, hates modern anything, Eleanor recited. Good. Lady Pemberton. Reasonable, cautious, obsessed with proper restoration techniques. She's our best ally. Perfect. Sebastian closed his notebook. You're ready. Are you? No. But I'm good at faking confidence. They sat in the library, fire crackling, the house quiet around them. Mrs. Davies had left dinner in the warming drawer. Neither of them had moved to eat it. Can I ask you something? Eleanor said. Always. Do you ever regret this? The arrangement. Sebastian considered the question. Sometimes. When I'm alone in hotel rooms, pretending to be married to someone who's not there. When I realize I've built my entire plan around a heritage board seat that might not even matter. He looked at her. But then I come home and have dinner with you, and I think maybe it's worth it. The seat. The company. Eleanor's heart did something dangerous. Sebastian. I'm not trying to make this complicated, he said quickly. I know what we agreed to. But I think we can acknowledge that this has become more pleasant than either of us expected. Pleasant? Is that the wrong word? No. It's just. Eleanor searched for the truth. I'm scared. Of what? That we're forgetting this is temporary. That we're building something that has an expiration date. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. Would it be so terrible if we enjoyed it while it lasted? Yes. Because when it ends, it's going to hurt. Maybe. He stood, walked to the fire. Or maybe we're both overthinking this. Maybe we're just two people who get along, making the best of a strange situation. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is anymore. He turned to face her. Do you? Eleanor stood. She should go back to the cottage. Put distance between them. Remember the prenup, the timeline, the deal. Instead she said no. I don't know either. They stood in the library, the fire between them, everything unsaid hanging in the air. The dinner's tomorrow, Sebastian said finally. We should both get some rest. Right. Yes. Eleanor walked to the door. Stopped. Sebastian. Yes. I'm glad you came home. His expression softened. So am I. Eleanor barely slept. She kept replaying the conversation, Sebastian's words. When I come home and have dinner with you, I think maybe it's worth it. This was exactly what Sophie had warned her about. Forgetting the arrangement was temporary. Letting feelings develop. Setting herself up for heartbreak. But God, it was hard to remember when he looked at her like that. When he called from Sydney, just to hear her voice. When he smiled at her across the dinner table like she was the only person in the room. At 3 a.m, her phone buzzed. Sebastian, can't sleep either? Eleanor, no. Sebastian, want to take a walk? She should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should remember this was all performance. Eleanor, give me 5 minutes. They met in the garden, both in pajamas and coats, their breath visible in the cold November air. They walked without speaking, following the path through the sleeping gardens. I keep thinking about what you said. Sebastian finally spoke. About building something with an expiration date. Sebastian, let me finish. He stopped walking. You're right. This was supposed to be purely transactional. But somewhere in the last month, it stopped feeling like a business deal. Eleanor's heart hammered. What are we doing? I don't know. But I think we need to decide. He faced her. We can go back to the original plan. Separate lives, minimal contact, 2 years and done. Or we can acknowledge that something's changed and figure out what that means. What do you want it to mean? He stopped. Started again. I want to have dinner with you without calculating whether we're performing. I want to call you from Tokyo because I miss you, not because it's expected. I want this to be real. For 2 years. For however long we have. Eleanor felt tears threatening. And when the 2 years are up, when we're supposed to divorce and walk away. I don't know. Maybe we renegotiate. Maybe we don't. He stepped closer. But I'm tired of pretending I don't care about you. I do care. More than I should. Sebastian, we can't. Why not? Who says we can't make this real if we both want to? The prenup. The agreement. The whole foundation this is built on. Then we rebuild the foundation. He took her hands. Eleanor, I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking if you want to try. Actually try. Not just perform for the Heritage Board or David or anyone else. Just us. Eleanor looked at their joined hands. At his face, honest and vulnerable in the moonlight. At the future they could have if she was brave enough to choose it. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? She thought about the cottage, about the gallery, about the 20 million pounds waiting at the end of 2 years. She thought about freedom and safety, and all the logical reasons to protect her heart. Then she thought about dinner conversations and garden walks, and the way he smiled when she challenged him. Okay, she said. Let's try. Sebastian's smile was brilliant. Really? Really? But Sebastian, we need new rules. Name them. Honesty. Complete honesty. No more pretending in private. Agreed. And we take it slowly. We don't rush into anything just because we're legally married. Of course. And if it doesn't work, if we realize we've made a mistake, we go back to the original plan. No hard feelings. Deal. He squeezed her hands. Anything else? Eleanor smiled. Don't make me regret this. I'll do my best. They walked back to the house hand in hand. At the fork where the path split between the cottage and the main house, they stopped. Good night, Eleanor. Good night, Sebastian. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he kissed her forehead gently. Sleep well. You too. Eleanor walked to her cottage alone, but for the first time since the wedding, she didn't feel lonely. She'd just agreed to make her fake marriage real. It was insane, reckless, completely illogical. But as she fell asleep, she was smiling. Chapter 9, The Test. Eleanor woke to find a note slipped under her cottage door. Good morning. Coffee at the main house? We should talk before tonight. Tonight. The Heritage Board dinner. The first real test of their marriage in front of people who mattered. She dressed carefully, cashmere sweater, tailored trousers, and walked to the main house. Found Sebastian in the kitchen, already showered and dressed, making coffee with the kind of precision he applied to everything. Morning, he said, and there was something different in his voice. Softer, more intimate. Morning. He poured her coffee, added milk without asking. He'd learned how she took it. They sat at the kitchen table, and for a moment, neither spoke. About last night, Sebastian finally said. Eleanor's stomach dropped. Are you having second thoughts? No. God, no. He reached across the table, took her hand. I just want to make sure you're not. That you meant what you said. I meant it. Because if you've changed your mind, we can go back to... Sebastian. Eleanor squeezed his hand. I haven't changed my mind. I'm terrified, but I haven't changed my mind. His smile was relieved. Good. Because I spend all night thinking about this, and I want to do it right. I don't want to rush you or push you or make you feel like this is just the arrangement with different packaging. So what do you want? I want to take you to dinner. An actual date. I want to learn things about you that aren't in the prenup or relevant to our public performance. I want to know what makes you laugh, what you're afraid of, what you dream about. Eleanor felt warmth spread through her chest. That sounds like courting. Is that allowed? Courting your own wife. I don't know. We're writing our own rules. Then I'm courting you. He stood, pulled her up with him. After we survive tonight. Deal. Deal. He kissed her hand, formal and old-fashioned, and Eleanor realized this was really happening. They were going to try, going to make this strange, contractual marriage into something real, assuming they survived the Heritage Board first. The dinner was at the Beaumont Hotel, in a private dining room that screamed old money and older prejudices. Eleanor spent 2 hours getting ready, Sophie video-calling her through the entire process. You look stunning, Sophie said as Eleanor stood in the midnight blue gown. But Elle, are you sure about this? About making it real with him? No. But I'm doing it anyway. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Sebastian knocked at precisely 7. When Eleanor opened the door, his expression made every penny of the dress worth it. You're staring, Eleanor said. I'm appreciating. He offered his arm. Ready to face the wolves? With you. Always. The drive to London was quiet. Sebastian's hand found hers in the darkness of a car, and they sat like that, fingers interlaced, not speaking. At the Beaumont, they were announced. Mr. and Mrs. Sebastian Vale. The dining room fell silent. 12 board members and their spouses, all watching as the American billionaire and his aristocratic wife made their entrance. Lord Ashworth, chairman of the board, approached first. 70-something, military bearing, suspicious eyes. Vale, Mrs. Vale, delighted you could join us. The pleasure is ours, Lord Ashworth, Sebastian said smoothly. Indeed. Ashworth's gaze swept over Eleanor. Lady Blackmere's daughter. I knew your grandmother. She spoke highly of you, Eleanor lied smoothly. Did she? How kind. Ashworth didn't sound convinced. Your husband has been quite insistent about his renovations at Vale House. I hope you've counseled restraint. I've counseled preservation, Eleanor said carefully. Sebastian wants to honor the house's history while making it livable. Livable. Ashworth made it sound like a disease. Historic homes aren't meant to be comfortable, Mrs. Vale. They're meant to be preserved. With respect, Lord Ashworth, preserved for whom? Empty houses crumble. Sebastian's renovations will ensure Vale House stands for another 400 years. Sebastian's hand tightened on her back. Pride or warning, she wasn't sure. Ashworth studied her. Well, at least he married someone with sense. He moved away. That went well, Sebastian murmured. He still hates you, but he respects you. That's something. They worked the room together. Eleanor knew this dance. Smile, charm, deflect. She'd been trained for it her entire life. But this time, she wasn't performing alone. Sebastian was beside her, a solid presence, backing her up when needed, letting her lead when appropriate. Lady Pemberton was their best conversation. Mid-60s, sharp intelligence, genuine interest in preservation. I've been following your plans for Vale House, she told Sebastian. The proposal to restore the original servants' quarters while updating the infrastructure, it's thoughtful. Rare these days. That was Eleanor's idea, Sebastian said. She convinced me that honoring the people who built the house was as important as honoring the building itself. Lady Pemberton looked at Eleanor with new interest. You have an eye for history, Mrs. Vale. Art history, specifically. But I believe in preserving stories, not just structures. Fascinating. You must come speak to our restoration committee. We need younger voices, perspectives that understand both tradition and progress. After she moved away, Sebastian whispered, You just won us our strongest ally. We're not done yet. Dinner was excruciating. 12 courses, each accompanied by long stories about lineage and tradition and the proper way to preserve England's heritage. Eleanor smiled through all of it, playing her part perfectly. Until dessert, when Lord Ashworth stood to make a toast. To preservation, he said, glass raised. To maintaining standards. To ensuring that our most precious historic properties don't fall into the wrong hands. The emphasis on wrong hands was clear. Every eye in the room turned to Sebastian. Eleanor stood before Sebastian could respond. If I may, she said, voice carrying across the room. I'd like to add to that toast. Ashworth's eyebrows rose. Please. Eleanor raised her glass. To preservation, yes, but also to evolution. Because history isn't static, it's living. Every generation that has occupied these historic homes has changed them, updated them, made them their own. My own family has renovated Blackmere countless times over 4 centuries. We've added wings, updated plumbing, installed electricity. Not because we didn't respect history, but because we understood that preservation means keeping things alive, not embalming them. She looked directly at Ashworth. Sebastian loves Vale House. He bought it when he could have purchased any property in England. He's investing millions to restore it properly. And yes, he's American. Yes, he's new money. But his mother grew up on that property. Her father tended those gardens. If anyone has earned the right to call Vale House home, it's Sebastian. Silence. Then Lady Pemberton began to clap. Slowly, others joined in. Ashworth's face was unreadable. Well said, Mrs. Vale. Perhaps there's hope for the next generation after all. Eleanor sat down, heart pounding. Sebastian's hand found hers under the table, squeezed hard. That was incredible, he whispered. I meant every word. I know. After dinner, during coffee and brandy, Eleanor excused herself to the ladies' room. She was touching up her lipstick when Lady Pemberton entered. That was quite the speech, Lady Pemberton said. I hope I didn't overstep. On the contrary, someone needed to say it. She studied Eleanor in the mirror. You love him? Your husband? Eleanor's hand stilled. Yes, I do. Good. Because Ashworth and his old guard will look for any excuse to deny Sebastian's proposals. But a love match, a genuine partnership. She smiled. That's harder to dismiss. After she left, Eleanor stared at her reflection. She'd just told a Heritage Board member she loved Sebastian. And she'd meant it. When had that happened? When had this arrangement become love? The car ride home was quiet. Sebastian kept glancing at her, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Finally, you defended me. Of course I did. You're my husband. No, I mean, he struggled with words. You made them see me differently. Not as an interloper, but as someone who belongs. You do belong. Because of you. Eleanor turned to face him. Sebastian, I love you. He said it simply, like stating a fact. I know we said we'd take it slow, but I can't. I love you. I think I have for weeks, but I was too scared to admit it. Eleanor's breath caught. Sebastian, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. After tonight, after watching you stand up for me, for us, I could not tell you. The car pulled up to Vale House. They sat in the darkness, neither moving. I told Lady Pemberton I love you, Eleanor said quietly. Sebastian went still. You did? She asked if it was a love match. I said yes. And Sebastian, I wasn't lying. His hand cupped her face. Eleanor, I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you gave me the cottage. Maybe when you negotiated my gallery lease. Maybe on our wedding day when you looked at me like I was the only person in the room. She laughed, tears threatening. I'm terrified because this wasn't the plan, but I love you. Sebastian kissed her then, properly, deeply, like he'd been wanting to for months. Eleanor kissed him back, and it felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. Come inside, he whispered. Not to the cottage. To the house. Stay with me. Eleanor knew what he was asking. The final step. Making this marriage real in every way. Are you sure? She asked. I've never been more sure of anything. Sebastian, the prenup. Forget the prenup. Forget the 2 years. Forget everything except this. He looked at her with such intensity it hurt. I want you to stay because you want to. Not because of a contract or an arrangement. Because you choose me. Eleanor thought about the 20 million pounds, about the exit clause, about the safety net she'd built. Then she thought about dinner conversations and garden walks, and the way he smiled when she challenged him. I choose you, she said. They walked into Vale House together, hand in hand. Up the stairs to Sebastian's wing, to the master bedroom Eleanor had seen once during her first tour. At the door, Sebastian paused. If you want to go back to the cottage. Eleanor kissed him. I'm staying. Later, much later, they lay in Sebastian's bed, Eleanor's head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. This changes everything, Sebastian said quietly. I know. The prenup, the timeline, all of it. I know. He tilted her chin up to look at him. I want to tear it up. The whole agreement. I want to be married to you because we choose it, not because we signed a contract. What about the Heritage Board? The voting rights? I'll figure it out. Or I won't. I don't care anymore. His voice was fierce. All I care about is you. Eleanor traced his jaw. What are we doing? Falling in love. Building something real. Choosing each other. It's insane. It's perfect. Eleanor thought about where she'd been 3 months ago, at Sotheby's, cataloging other people's treasures, resigned to saving her family by sacrificing herself. She thought she was choosing the cage with the best terms. Instead, she'd found freedom in the most unexpected place. I love you, she said again, testing the words. They felt true. I love you too. Sebastian kissed her forehead. And tomorrow, we're calling the lawyers. We're rewriting everything. Making this marriage real in every way. Tomorrow, Eleanor agreed. She fell asleep in her husband's arms, in the house that would be their home, not because of a contract, but because they'd chosen each other. The prenup had given them 2 years. Love had given them forever. Chapter 10. The morning after. Eleanor woke to unfamiliar light. Wrong angle, wrong quality. It took a moment to remember. Sebastian's bedroom. Sebastian's bed. Sebastian's arms wrapped around her waist. She turned carefully. He was still asleep, face relaxed in a way she'd never seen. Without the tension he carried during the day, he looked younger. Vulnerable. She'd slept with her husband. Her real husband, not her contractual one. The enormity of it settled over her like weight. Last night, in the heat of declarations and desire, it had felt inevitable. Right. But in the cold light of morning, reality crept in. They'd agreed to make it real. To tear up the prenup. To choose each other. What had she done? Sebastian's eyes opened. Found hers. Smiled. "Good morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Morning." He pulled her closer, kissed her temple. Regrets. Eleanor thought about lying. About protecting herself. But they'd promised honesty. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Of what?" "That I've just given up my safety net. That I've traded guaranteed freedom for this." Sebastian propped himself up on one elbow. "Eleanor, you haven't given up anything. If you want to leave, you can still leave. The only thing that's changed is why we're staying. But the prenup! We'll write a new one. One that protects you just as much, but acknowledges that we're in this together now." He traced her jawline. "I'm not trapping you. I'm choosing you. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Because you can choose to leave at any time." Eleanor sat up, pulling the sheet with her. "Sebastian, what if this doesn't work? What if we've made a mistake? Then we deal with it. Together." He sat up too, took her hands. "Eleanor, I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But last night wasn't a mistake. I love you. That's not going away, just because the sun came up." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But Sophie's warnings echoed. Guard your heart. When this ends, he's going to walk away like you never existed. "I need to think," Eleanor said. "About what this means. About what I want." Sebastian's face fell, but he nodded. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I'm not leaving. I just need space. To process. The cottage is still yours. Always will be." Eleanor kissed him, quick, uncertain, and gathered her dress from the floor. Walking back to the cottage in last night's gown felt like a metaphor she didn't want to examine. Sophie called an hour later. "How was the dinner?" she asked. "We told them we love each other." Silence. Then, "Elle, please tell me you didn't." "I did. He did. We both did." Eleanor paced the cottage. "And then we spent the night together. And he wants to tear up the prenup and make this a real marriage." "Oh, Elle, don't say it like that." "Like what?" "Like you just gave up the only leverage you had. Like you're about to get your heart broken." "We love each other, sophomore. That changes things. Does it? Or does it just make the inevitable ending more painful?" Sophie's voice gentled. "Elle, I love you. But men like Sebastian Vale don't just fall in love and live happily ever after. They're ambitious. They're focused there. He's not like that. You don't know him. And you do. You've known him for 3 months. 3 months of a business arrangement. That's not enough time to know if someone's really in love or just playing a very convincing part." Eleanor sank onto the sofa. "You think he's lying? I think he believes what he's saying. But I also think he's used to getting what he wants, and right now he wants you. What happens when that changes?" "It won't." "How do you know?" Eleanor didn't have an answer. Sebastian found her in the cottage that afternoon. She'd spent the day researching marriage law, prenuptial agreements, divorce settlements, trying to understand what she'd be giving up if she tore up the original contract. "Can we talk?" he asked from the doorway. "Come in." He sat across from her, maintaining distance. "I've been thinking about what you said this morning. About needing space." "Sebastian, let me finish." He leaned forward. "I don't want you to feel trapped. That was never the goal. So I have a proposal." Eleanor's stomach dropped. "What kind of proposal?" "We don't tear up the prenup." "Not yet." He pulled out his phone, showed her an email. "I spoke to my lawyer this morning. We can amend the agreement. Keep the 2-year timeline, keep your settlement, keep all your protections. But add a clause that says if we're still together after 2 years, we renegotiate. turn it into a real marriage then. You want to wait 2 years. I want you to feel safe. If that means waiting, I'll wait. Eleanor read the email. It was exactly what he described. All her protections remained. The only thing that changed was the acknowledgement that they were trying to make it work. This doesn't make sense, she said. Last night you said you wanted to make it real now. I did. I do. But I also want you to trust this. To trust me. And you can't do that if you feel like you've given up your escape route. So we just continue as we were, pretending for 2 years. No, we live as we have been. Honestly, together, trying to build something real, but with the safety net still in place. And when 2 years are up, if we're both still in this, we choose each other again. Officially, Eleanor stared at him. You're willing to wait 2 years? To prove this is real? I'd wait 10 years if that's what you needed. She felt something crack open in her chest. Why? Because I love you. And love isn't about timelines or contracts. It's about choosing someone every day. And I'm going to choose you every day for the next 2 years. And then I'm going to ask you to choose me back. Eleanor set down the phone, walked to him, climbed into his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck. I don't deserve you, she whispered. Yes, you do. He held her close. Is this okay? The amended agreement. Yes. But Sebastian, I'm choosing you now. Not in 2 years. Now. I know. But I want you to know you can unchoose me if you need to. That the door is always open. Eleanor kissed him. I'm not going anywhere. Good. Because I'm making dinner tonight. My cottage or yours? She smiled against his lips. Yours. Always yours. That evening, Eleanor called Sophie back. We're keeping the prenup, she said, but amending it. We're trying for 2 years, and then deciding. Sophie was quiet. That's actually smart. You approve. I approve of you protecting yourself. I still think you're playing with fire, but at least you're wearing a fireproof suit. Eleanor laughed. That's the worst metaphor you've ever used. I'm stressed. You're my best friend and you're falling in love with a billionaire who might break your heart. Or might not. Or might not, Sophie conceded. So what happens now? Now we live. We try. We see what happens. And in 2 years we choose. Really choose. Not because of debt or contracts or heritage boards. Just because we want to. After they hung up, Eleanor walked to the main house. Found Sebastian in the kitchen, cooking pasta with the same precision he applied to everything. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, rested her head against his back. I love you, she said. I love you too. I'm still scared. So am I. But I'm staying. Sebastian turned in her arms, kissed her properly. Then we'll be scared together. They ate dinner at the kitchen table, talking about nothing important. The gallery renovations. Sebastian's next trip to Singapore. Whether they should get a dog. Normal things. Married things. And when Eleanor went to bed that night, in Sebastian's room, in Sebastian's arms, she felt something she hadn't felt since before her father's phone call. Hope. Not certainty. Not security. But hope. And maybe that was enough. The next morning, Eleanor woke to Sebastian already dressed for work. I have to go to London, he said apologetically. Meetings all day. But I'll be back for dinner. Okay. He kissed her. I love you. I love you too. After he left, Eleanor got a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Vale, this is Victoria Ashworth. Lord Ashworth's daughter. I was at the dinner Saturday night. Would you be available for coffee this week? I'd like to discuss your speech. Victoria. Eleanor stared at the message. Lord Ashworth's daughter wanted to meet. That could be good or very, very bad. She texted back, of course. When and where? The response came quickly. Wednesday, 2 p.m., the Wolseley. Looking forward to it. Eleanor forwarded the exchange to Sebastian. His reply, interesting. Victoria's progressive. Hates her father's old guard attitudes. This might be good for us. Or it might be a trap, Eleanor typed back. Then we'll spring it together. I'm coming with you. Eleanor smiled at her phone. Together. They were facing everything together now. She went to the gallery that afternoon, checked on the renovations. The space was coming together beautifully. Her vision becoming real. Her contractor, a woman named Marie, grinned when she saw Eleanor. "You look different." "Happy." "Do I?" "Definitely." "New marriage glow." Eleanor laughed. "Something like that. Your husband came by yesterday, actually, while you weren't here. Checked on the progress, asked if we needed anything. Said to spare no expense." "He did." "Seemed very invested in making sure you're happy." Marie hammered a nail. "You got a good one there." Eleanor looked around the gallery. Her space, her dream, funded by Sebastian's money but built by her vision. A partnership. A real one. "Yeah," she said. "I think I do." Chapter 11. The Photograph. Wednesday arrived with unseasonable cold. Eleanor dressed carefully for the meeting with Victoria Ashford. Navy suit, pearls, armor disguised as elegance. Sebastian met her at Paddington Station, already in his business suit from morning meetings. "Ready?" he asked, taking her hand. "No, but let's do it anyway." The Wolseley was crowded with the lunch rush winding down. Victoria Ashworth was already seated, wearing a sharp black dress, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to prove herself. She stood when they approached. "Mrs. Vale." "Mr. Vale. Thank you for coming. Please, call me Eleanor." "Victoria." They shook hands. "I hope you don't mind, but I asked someone else to join us." Eleanor's stomach dropped. "Who?" "Me." Eleanor turned. A woman in her 60s stood behind her, elegant in tweed and pearls. It took a moment to place her. Margot Whitmore, one of the most respected art historians in Britain. Eleanor had read her books at Cambridge. "Professor Whitmore," Eleanor managed. "This is unexpected." "I imagine so." Margot's smile was warm. "Victoria thought we should meet. Shall we sit?" They settled around the table. Tea was ordered. Eleanor exchanged a glance with Sebastian. "What is this?" Victoria spoke first. "Your speech at the dinner was remarkable, Eleanor. It made me realize how tired I am of my father's generation controlling the narrative about heritage preservation." "I'm not sure I follow," Eleanor said carefully. "The Heritage Board is dominated by men like my father. Men who think preservation means freezing properties in time, making them museums instead of homes." Victoria leaned forward. "But there's a movement building. Younger board members, people who understand that historic houses need to evolve to survive. We need voices like yours." "You want me on the Heritage Board?" Eleanor couldn't hide her surprise. "Not just on it. We want you to be the face of it, the bridge between old and new." Victoria glanced at Margot. "Which is where Professor Whitmore comes in." Margot set down her teacup. "I've been commissioned to write a book about the future of heritage preservation in Britain. Case studies of properties that are balancing tradition with innovation. Vale House would be perfect." Sebastian shifted beside Eleanor. "You want to write about our home? About your approach to it, yes. The renovations, the philosophy, the way you're honoring the house's working-class history while restoring its grandeur." Margot looked at Eleanor. "And I'd like you to co-author the section. Your perspective as both an aristocrat and an art historian would be invaluable." Eleanor felt the weight of it. This could legitimize Sebastian completely. Make him not just acceptable to the Heritage Board, but exemplary. "There's a catch, isn't there?" Sebastian asked. Victoria smiled. "Smart man. Yes. My father will hate this. He'll see it as a direct challenge to his authority. And he has considerable influence." "So we'd be declaring war," Eleanor said. "You'd be declaring independence," Victoria corrected. "From the old guard, the outdated thinking, the prejudice against new money in Americans and anyone who doesn't fit their narrow definition of suitable." Sebastian took Eleanor's hand under the table. "Can we discuss this privately?" "Of course." Victoria signaled for the check. "Think about it. We'll be in touch." After they left, Eleanor and Sebastian sat in silence. "This is huge," Eleanor said finally. "It's also dangerous. If Ashworth turns against us, he already doesn't like you. At least this way we're not just defending. We're building something." Sebastian studied her. "You want to do it. I want to have a voice. To contribute something beyond just being your wife." She paused. "Is that selfish?" "No. It's you being brilliant." He kissed her hand. "Let's do it. Together." That evening, Eleanor was in the cottage when she heard shouting from the main house. She ran over to find Sebastian on the phone, his face dark with anger. That's unacceptable, he was saying. We had an agreement. No, I don't care what he offered you. A deal is a deal. He hung up, threw the phone onto the couch. What happened? Eleanor asked. One of my major investors just pulled out of a Singapore deal. Said he'd been advised that I was unstable and distracted by domestic concerns. Sebastian's jaw was tight. This is Ashworth. It has to be. We only met with Victoria this afternoon. How could he? Victoria must have told him we were meeting. He's moving fast to undermine me before we can build any momentum. Eleanor sank onto the sofa. This is my fault. If I hadn't made that speech. Don't. Sebastian knelt in front of her. This isn't your fault. Ashworth was always going to come after me. At least now we know what we're dealing with. Eleanor's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Lovely seeing you today, Eleanor. Your father sends his regards. We had such an interesting conversation about family loyalty. Victoria. Eleanor's blood ran cold. Sebastian. He read the message. She went to your father. Why would she do that? Another text, this time with a photo attached. Eleanor's father, sitting in his study at Blackmere, talking to Victoria Ashworth. The timestamp showed it was from this morning, before their meeting at the Wolseley. She set us up, Eleanor whispered. The whole meeting was a setup. Sebastian was already dialing. David, I need you to run a complete background check on Victoria Ashworth. Everything. I don't care what it costs. Eleanor felt sick. They'd been so careful, so strategic, and in one afternoon, they'd walked straight into a trap. I need to call my father, she said. Eleanor. I need to know what she said to him. Her father answered on the second ring. Eleanor. I wondered when you'd call. What did Victoria Ashworth want? To discuss your marriage, actually. She seemed very concerned about your well-being. Concerned how? She suggested that perhaps Mr. Vale wasn't being entirely honest with you about his business dealings. That there were debts, complications. Her father paused. She also mentioned the prenuptial agreement. How unusual it was. How it suggested this marriage might not be what it appears. Eleanor closed her eyes. And what did you tell her? The truth. That you're an adult who made her own choice. That the prenup was standard for marriages involving significant wealth disparities. Another pause. But Eleanor, she asked some very specific questions about the terms. About the 2-year timeline. I didn't confirm anything, but she knows. She knows this started as an arrangement. I'm sorry, darling. I tried to be discreet. After she hung up, Eleanor turned to Sebastian. They know. About the original arrangement. How much? Enough to be dangerous. Eleanor's hands shook. If this gets out, if people think our marriage is fake, then my Heritage Board application is dead, and your reputation is destroyed. Sebastian ran his hands through his hair. This is exactly what they wanted. They dangled the book, the legitimacy, everything we wanted. And when we reached for it, they struck. Eleanor stood, paced. We need to get ahead of this. Control the narrative before they do. How? She turned to face him. We tell the truth. Eleanor. Not all of it. But enough. We admit the marriage started as a practical arrangement. We explain that it's become real. We own the story before they can weaponize it. Sebastian stared at her. That's incredibly risky. So is letting them tell a version we can't control. Eleanor pulled out her phone. I'm calling Margot Whitmore. If we're going to be honest, let's be honest with someone who understands complicated stories. And if she uses it against us, then we were doomed anyway. Margot Whitmore agreed to meet them that evening at Vale House. She arrived at 8, accepted a glass of wine, and listened as Eleanor and Sebastian explained everything. The debt, the arrangement, the prenup, the way it had evolved into something real. When they finished, Margot was quiet for a long moment. That's quite a story, she finally said. We understand if you don't want to work with us now, Eleanor said. Don't want to? Margot laughed. My dear, this is perfect. Not for the Heritage Board. They'll still be scandalized. But for my book, this is exactly the kind of honest, modern approach to historic properties that we need. Sebastian frowned. You want to write about this? With your permission, yes. Not as a scandal, but as a case study. How a practical arrangement evolved into a genuine partnership. How love can grow from unlikely beginnings. How modern marriages, don't have to follow traditional paths to be valid. Eleanor looked at Sebastian. He nodded slowly. On one condition, Eleanor said. We get editorial approval. Every word about our personal story. Agreed? Margot raised her glass. To honesty. It's far more interesting than fiction. After Margot left, Eleanor and Sebastian stood in the library, the fire burning low. We just bet everything on truth, Sebastian said. Better than betting on lies. He pulled her close. I meant what I said at the Heritage dinner. You make me braver than I am. We make each other brave. They stood together in the firelight, knowing that tomorrow would bring consequences. Victoria would retaliate. Ashworth would attack. The Heritage Board would judge. But for tonight, they had each other. And the truth. And maybe that would be enough. Chapter 12. When Truth Becomes Weapon. The article appeared in the Telegraph 3 days later. Eleanor saw it first, scrolling through her phone over morning coffee. The headline made her stomach drop. Arranged marriage, or real love. The truth behind tech billionaires' aristocratic union. Sebastian, she called, her voice tight. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, already dressed for a video conference. What's wrong? She handed him the phone. Watched his face darken as he read. The article was devastating in its precision. It detailed their arrangement, the debt, the Heritage Board motivation, the prenuptial agreement with its 2-year timeline. It quoted sources close to the family, about Eleanor's resignation from Sotheby's, about Sebastian's obsession with gaining legitimacy, about the transactional nature of their union. But the worst part was the end. While the couple now claims their arrangement has evolved into genuine affection, questions remain about the authenticity of a marriage built on such mercenary foundations. The Heritage Board is expected to address these revelations at their next meeting. Victoria, Sebastian said quietly, or Ashworth, or both. Eleanor felt nauseous. They beat us to it. We were going to control the narrative, and they... Her phone rang. Her mother. Don't answer it, Sebastian said. I have to. Her mother's voice was shaking. Eleanor, please tell me this isn't true. Please tell me you didn't sell yourself for money. Mother! 8 million pounds. That's what the article says. That we were bankrupt, and you married him to save Blackmere. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. Because right now the entire county is calling, asking if my daughter is a gold digger who married for money. Eleanor closed her eyes. It started as an arrangement, yes, but it became real. We fell in love. How convenient. How very convenient that you fell in love with the billionaire after he paid off our debts. Her mother's voice broke. Do you have any idea what this does to our family's reputation? What people will say about us? I don't care what people say. Well, I do. Your father does. We have to live here, Eleanor. We have to face these people. Then tell them the truth. That I made a choice. That I'm happy. Are you? Or are you just telling yourself that because admitting the alternative is too painful? Eleanor hung up. Her hands were shaking. Sebastian pulled her into his arms. I'm sorry. For what? You didn't write the article. No, but I put you in this position. If I'd never approached your father, then Blackmere would be gone and my family would be destitute. Eleanor pulled back to look at him. I don't regret marrying you, Sebastian. I regret that the world can't understand that something can start one way and become something else. His phone rang. David. You've seen it? David asked without preamble. Yes. The board is meeting tomorrow. Emergency session. They're going to vote on your application. Already. Ashworth pushed it through. He wants you out before you can mount a defense. David paused. Sebastian, it's not looking good. Half the board thinks you married Eleanor purely for access. The other half thinks it doesn't matter, that your approach to Vale House is solid regardless. And which half is winning? The one that matters is Lady Pemberton. She's on the fence. If she votes against you, we lose. You lose. After Sebastian hung up, they sat in silence. We need to go to the meeting, Eleanor said finally. Eleanor, that's not. If they're going to judge us, let them do it to our faces. Let them ask their questions. Let us tell our story. The board doesn't allow spouses at voting sessions. Then I'll wait outside. But Sebastian, you can't face this alone. He cupped her face. I'm not alone. I have you. Always. The emergency board meeting was held at Lord Ashworth's London townhouse, because of course it was. Sebastian and Eleanor arrived together, a united front against the whispers and stares. Lady Pemberton met them in the entrance hall. "This is highly irregular," she said. "Mrs. Vale, you can't attend." "I know. I'll wait." Eleanor squeezed Sebastian's hand once, then released it. "Go. Tell them the truth." Sebastian disappeared into the library where the board was assembled. Eleanor sat in the drawing room, surrounded by portraits of Ashworth ancestors who'd probably never questioned their right to belong anywhere. 45 minutes passed. An hour. Eleanor checked her phone obsessively. Sophie had texted. "Saw the article. Want me to come to London?" Eleanor typed back, "Not yet. We'll let you know." Finally, the library door opened. Board members filed out, their faces carefully neutral. Lord Ashworth emerged last, saw Eleanor and actually smiled. "Mrs. Vale, your husband is waiting for you." Eleanor's stomach dropped. That smile meant nothing good. She found Sebastian standing by the fireplace, his back to the door. He didn't turn when she entered. "Sebastian, they voted." His voice was flat. 9-3. "My application for full board membership was denied." Eleanor felt the floor shift. "No." Ashworth argued that my marriage was a calculated attempt to buy legitimacy. That someone who would enter a fraudulent marriage couldn't be trusted to preserve England's heritage. He finally turned. His face was devastated. "He's not wrong. Don't say that. Eleanor, I married you to get on this board. That was the plan. The fact that I fell in love with you doesn't change why I did it. But it changes everything else." "Does it?" He walked to her. "Or does it just make the lie prettier?" Eleanor felt tears threatening. "You don't mean that." "I don't know what I mean anymore." He ran his hands through his hair. "All I know is that I destroyed my business reputation and your family's name for a board seat I didn't get. And now I have to figure out what we do next. We keep going. We finish the renovations. We live our lives. We prove them wrong." "How?" "By staying married to spite them." The words hit like a slap. "Is that what you think this is? Spite? I don't know what this is." His voice rose. "I don't know if we're actually in love or if we're just so deep in the lie that we can't tell the difference anymore." Eleanor stepped back. "I know the difference." "Do you?" "Because 3 months ago, you were ready to marry me for money. How do I know that's not still what this is? You're getting your gallery, your allowance, your independence. Maybe the love story is just another performance. That's not fair. None of this is fair." Sebastian's control finally cracked. "I built this entire plan around getting on that board, and I failed. And now I have to decide if I stay in this marriage because I actually love you, or because walking away would mean admitting the whole thing was a mistake." Silence fell. Eleanor felt something breaking inside her chest. "I think," she said carefully, "you just answered your own question." "Eleanor, you're right. We don't know what's real and what's performance. And maybe we never will." She pulled off her wedding ring, set it on the mantelpiece. "So let's find out. What are you doing?" "Giving you what you wanted. Space. Time. The truth." Eleanor's voice shook but held. "I'm going back to the cottage. And you're going to figure out if you married me for the board, or if somewhere along the way you actually chose me." "Eleanor, don't. And when you know the answer, really know it, you know where to find me." She walked out before he could respond, before she could lose her nerve, before the tears could fall. She made it to the cottage before collapsing. Sophie called moments later. "I'm coming to London," Sophie said, no room for argument. "I'll be there in 2 hours." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because you're my best friend, and your marriage just imploded in the Telegraph." After they hung up, Eleanor sat in the cottage she'd thought of as sanctuary. The cottage Sebastian had given her. The cottage that was supposed to be hers, but was really just another part of the arrangement. She'd walked away from her wedding ring, from her husband, from the marriage she'd been trying to make real. But maybe Sebastian was right. Maybe they'd been performing for so long they couldn't recognize the truth anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from Margot Whitmore. Saw the Telegraph piece. "Still want to do the book? I think your story is more important now than ever." Eleanor stared at the message, then typed, "Yes, but I want to tell the whole truth, including this part." Margot's response. That's what makes it a real story. Eleanor looked at her bare left hand. At the cottage full of her things. At the life she'd built in the shadow of a contract. Tomorrow, she'd figure out what came next. Tomorrow, she'd decide if the marriage could be saved, or if it had been doomed from the start. Tonight, she just needed to survive. Chapter 13, The Distance Between Us. Sophie arrived at Vale House with wine, chocolate, and the kind of fierce loyalty that made Eleanor cry all over again. "He's an idiot," Sophie declared, uncorking the wine in the cottage kitchen. "A complete and utter idiot. He's hurt. The board rejection is not your fault, and it doesn't give him the right to question whether your feelings are real." Sophie poured 2 generous glasses. "Elle, you've been in love with him for weeks. I've watched it happen. Don't let his crisis make you doubt yourself." Eleanor sipped the wine. It was too early to be drinking, but nothing about this day was normal. What if he's right, though? What if we've been performing for so long that we can't tell what's real? "Do you love him?" "Yes." "Does being with him make you happy?" "Yes." "Does it feel like performance, or does it feel like home?" Eleanor thought about morning coffee, about garden walks, about falling asleep in his arms. "Home. Then that's real." Sophie sat beside her. "The beginning doesn't matter. How you started doesn't define what you became. Try telling the Heritage Board that. Fuck the Heritage Board. This is about you and Sebastian, not them." Eleanor's phone buzzed. A text from Sebastian. "Can we talk?" Her heart jumped. She showed Sophie, who read it and shrugged. "Your call. Do you want to?" "I don't know. I told him to figure out what he wants. It's been 4 hours. Maybe 4 hours was enough." Eleanor typed back. "Not yet. You need time." "So do I." His response was immediate. "I know what I want. I want you." Eleanor stared at the message. Sophie read over her shoulder. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make him wait." Eleanor set down her phone. "Because if he really knows, if he's really sure, then waiting won't change anything. But if he's just panicking because I left, then he needs to sit with that." Sophie grinned. "That's my girl." 3 days passed. Eleanor stayed in the cottage, worked on gallery plans, avoided the main house. Sebastian texted twice daily, morning and night, but she didn't respond beyond, still thinking. On the 4th day, her father called. "I need to apologize," he said without preamble. Eleanor sat up. "For what?" "For putting you in this position. For gambling with Blackmere and expecting you to pay the debt. For not protecting you from Victoria Ashworth's questions." He paused. "Your mother told me what she said to you. About selling yourself. That was cruel and untrue." "Was it?" "Eleanor, I've watched you these past months. The way you talk about Sebastian, the way you light up when he calls. That's not performance. That's love." Eleanor felt tears threaten. "How do you know?" "Because it's how your mother looks when she talks about me. Even now, after 30 years and all my failures." His voice softened. "Love isn't always what we plan for. Sometimes it's what saves us from our plans." After they hung up, Eleanor walked to the window. Across the lawn, she could see the main house. Sebastian's office light was on. He was working late again, alone in that big house. She picked up her phone. Typed, "Tomorrow. Dinner. Your place or mine?" His response, "Yours." "I'll cook. 7 p.m. Eleanor, okay." At 7 the next evening, Sebastian knocked on the cottage door. He held a basket with ingredients, his expression nervous in a way she'd never seen. "Hi," he said. "Hi." Eleanor let him in. Watched as he unpacked the basket. Pasta, fresh tomatoes, basil, garlic. The simple meal he'd made their first week of actually trying. They worked in tandem, not quite touching but aware of each other's movements. Sebastian chopped garlic. Eleanor opened wine. The silence was heavy but not hostile. Finally, as water boiled for pasta, Sebastian spoke. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" "For questioning whether your feelings were real. For letting my own fear and failure make me doubt you." He set down the knife. "I was devastated about the board. I'd built everything around getting that seat. And when I lost it, I didn't know who I was anymore. And now I know I'm the man who loves you. That's enough." Eleanor leaned against the counter. "Is it?" "Because the board was important to you. Your mother, Vale House, proving you belong. I thought the board would make me belong." But Eleanor, I already belong. Because you chose me. Not because of my money or my house or any external validation. You chose me. He stepped closer. And I choose you. Not for a heritage board seat. Not to save your family's estate. Just because I love you. Sebastian. Let me finish. He took her hands. These last 4 days have been hell. Sleeping alone, eating alone, working alone. And I kept thinking about what you said, that we needed to figure out what's real. So I made a list. He pulled out his phone, showed her a note. Eleanor read, "Real things. How I feel when she laughs. The way she challenges me. How she made me care about more than just winning. The fact that I'm better with her than without her. That I'd rather have her and no board seat than a board seat and know her." Eleanor's vision blurred. "You made a list. I'm a businessman. I make lists." He smiled weakly. "But Eleanor, every item comes back to the same conclusion. I love you. Really, truly love you. Not the arrangement version. Not the performance version. The real version." Eleanor set down her wine glass. "I made a list too." "You did? Mental list. Want to hear it? Please. I love how you bring me coffee without asking. I love that you negotiated my gallery lease like it was $1 billion deal. I love that you're kind to Mrs. Davies. I love that you rebuilt your mother's cottage, even though she'll never see it." She stepped closer. "I love that you gave me space, even when it hurt. And I love that you're here now, cooking pasta in my cottage, making lists about what's real." Sebastian's hands came up to cup her face. "So we're real. We're real. Not performance. Not performance." He kissed her then, gentle, reverent, real. When they pulled apart, both were crying. "I'm still scared," Eleanor admitted. "So am I. And the board rejection still hurts." "It does. But I have other plans for Vale House now. Better ones. Ones that don't require anyone's permission." "Like what?" Sebastian smiled. "You'll see. But Eleanor, I need you to know, I'm not giving up on us because of a setback. I'm in this. Fully. For however long you'll have me." Eleanor kissed him again. "How about forever?" "Forever works." They ate pasta on the cottage sofa, legs tangled together, planning the future. Not the contractual 2 years. Not the arrangement. Just their life. "Move back to the main house," Sebastian said. "Please. The bedroom feels wrong without you." "What about the cottage?" "It's still yours. Your space. But come home at night." "Okay. Okay. Yes. I'll move back." Eleanor smiled. "On one condition." "Name it." "We get a dog. A big one. To run around the grounds." Sebastian laughed. "Done." "What kind?" "I don't care. As long as it's ours." That night, Eleanor moved back into the main house. Back into their bedroom. Back into their life. The next morning, she woke to find Sebastian already awake, watching her. "What?" she asked, self-conscious. "Just memorizing this. You hear real. In case I ever doubt again." "Don't doubt. I'll try not to." He kissed her forehead. "I have a meeting in London today. Wanna come? We could have lunch." "I can't. Meeting with contractors at the gallery." "But dinner." "Always dinner." Eleanor watched him get ready for work, the suit, the briefcase, the phone calls already starting. This was real life. Not a performance. Not an arrangement. Just marriage. Her phone buzzed. "Margot Whitmore, coffee this week. I want to discuss the book structure. I think we start with the ending, with you taking off your ring and walking away. Then we tell readers how you got there." Eleanor showed Sebastian. He read it, then looked at her. "Are you sure about this? Telling the whole story?" "I'm sure. Because maybe our story helps someone else. Someone else who thinks love has to start perfectly to end well. Or someone who thinks arranged marriages can't become real ones." "Exactly." After Sebastian left for London, Eleanor drove to the gallery. The renovations were nearly complete. Her vision, becoming reality. Marie, the contractor, grinned when she saw her. "You look better. Last week you looked like death." "Last week was rough. But you worked it out? You and Mr. Vale." "We worked it out." "Good. He came by again, you know. Day before yesterday. Checked on everything, asked about timeline. He was a mess." Eleanor smiled. Was he? Looked like he hadn't slept in days. Kept asking if everything would be ready for your opening. Marie hammered a nail. That's a man in love, Mrs. Vale. The real kind. Eleanor walked through her gallery, her space, her dream, her future. Built with Sebastian's money, but created by her vision. A partnership. A real one. Her phone rang. Sebastian. Hi, she answered. Hi. I'm sitting in the most boring meeting of my life, and all I can think about is you. Is that so? It is. What are you wearing? Eleanor laughed. We're not having phone sex, Sebastian. I wasn't suggesting. Well, not right now anyway. She could hear his smile. I just missed you. Wanted to hear your voice. I'm at the gallery. It's beautiful. You should see it. I will. Opening night, I'll be front row. There's no seating. It's an art gallery. Then I'll be front standing. Eleanor's heart felt full. I love you. I love you too. See you at dinner. See you at dinner. She hung up and stood in her gallery, surrounded by empty walls waiting for art. In 3 months, she'd fill them. In 3 months, she'd open. In 3 months, she'd have built something entirely her own. But tonight, she'd go home to her husband. Her real husband. And that felt like the greatest achievement of all. Chapter 14. Building something new. 3 months later, Eleanor stood in the center of her gallery, adjusting the lighting on a canvas for the 3rd time. The opening was in 2 hours, and she was convinced everything was wrong. It's perfect, Sebastian said from the doorway. Stop fidgeting. The light's too harsh on this piece. And the positioning of the sculptures. Eleanor. He crossed to her, took her hands. It's perfect. You're just nervous. She was. Terrified, actually. Tonight, critics and collectors would judge her vision. Tonight, she'd find out if she could actually do this, build something meaningful without the Ashford name or Sotheby's reputation behind her. What if no one comes? She asked. Then we'll drink all the champagne ourselves. Sebastian kissed her forehead. But they'll come. David's bringing half of London's tech crowd. Lady Pemberton confirmed she's attending. Even Margot's bringing some of her academic colleagues. Lady Pemberton's coming? She called yesterday. Said she wanted to support the future of arts advocacy, or something like that. Eleanor leaned into him. Thank you. For everything. The lease, the renovations, the patience while I've been obsessive. You're not obsessive. You're passionate. There's a difference. He checked his watch. I should go change. David and I are coming together. You're not staying to help set up? You told me yesterday that if I touched one more thing, you'd ban me from the opening. I did say that, didn't I? You did. Very forcefully. He kissed her properly. See you at 8, Mrs. Vale. After he left, Eleanor walked through the gallery one more time. 10 emerging artists, 23 pieces total, all carefully curated to tell a story about transformation and becoming. Her phone buzzed. Sophie, on my way. Bringing moral support and emergency wine. Eleanor smiled. Sophie had been her anchor these past months, helping with every detail, talking her down from every panic spiral. She'd even helped write some of the gallery materials, turning Eleanor's academic prose into something approachable. The door chimed. Marie, the contractor, carrying a bouquet. These just arrived for you, she said. Eleanor read the card. To new beginnings and brave choices. Break a leg tonight. Your father. She felt tears threaten. Her father had been surprisingly supportive since the Telegraph article. He called weekly, asked about the gallery, even offered to attend the opening until Eleanor gently suggested that might attract the wrong kind of attention. Another delivery. White roses this time. The card read, Proud of you. Mother. And another. A massive arrangement from David. Sebastian won't shut up about this opening. Congratulations on giving him something else to obsess over. David. By 7:30, the gallery was full of flowers and Eleanor was a mess of nerves and gratitude. Sophie arrived, took one look at her, and steered her to the back office. Breathe, Sophie commanded. You look beautiful. The gallery is stunning. And in 30 minutes, you're going to blow everyone away. Or I'm going to throw up. You're not going to throw up. You're going to smile and talk about art and be brilliant. Sophie fixed Eleanor's lipstick. And Elle, I'm so proud of you. You did this. Not Sotheby's, not the Ashford name. You. Eleanor hugged her friend. Thank you. For everything. Always. At 8 o'clock, Eleanor unlocked the doors. People flooded in, more than she'd expected, more than she dared hope for. Critics from major publications, collectors she recognized from Sotheby's, young artists hoping to network. And Sebastian, standing near the entrance with David, watching her with undisguised pride. Eleanor worked the room, discussing pieces, introducing artists, feeling more confident with each conversation. This was what she trained for, what she was good at, not cataloging other people's choices, but making her own. Lady Pemberton arrived fashionably late, surveyed the gallery with an expert eye. Impressive, Mrs. Vale, she said. You have a good eye. This artist here, she gestured to a series of photographs. Very promising. I may have to add her to my collection. I can introduce you, Eleanor offered. Please do. As Eleanor led Lady Pemberton to meet the photographer, she caught Sebastian's eye. He was beaming. Later, as the crowd thinned, Margot Whitmore approached. This is exactly what I hoped to see. The gallery? No, you. Thriving. Building something that's entirely yours. Margot sipped her champagne. I've been working on the book. The chapter about you and Sebastian is taking shape beautifully. When do you think it'll be published? Next autumn. But Eleanor, I wanted to ask, would you be interested in a follow-up project? A series of profiles on women reimagining heritage and tradition. Eleanor's heart leapt. You mean write with you? Co-author, yes. Your voice is needed in these conversations. Before Eleanor could respond, a commotion near the entrance. Lord Ashworth, of all people, had arrived. Eleanor's stomach dropped. She looked for Sebastian, found him already moving toward her. Want me to handle this? He asked quietly. No. I will. She approached Ashworth. Lord Ashworth, this is unexpected. Mrs. Vale. He surveyed the gallery. Margot invited me. Said I needed to see what real preservation work looked like. He paused. She may have had a point. Eleanor waited. Your husband's application to the Heritage Board was denied, Ashworth continued. But his work at Vale House has been notable. The restoration of the servants' quarters, the preservation of the estate's working-class history, it's more thoughtful than I anticipated. Sebastian cares deeply about honoring the house's full story. So I'm learning. Ashworth studied a painting. I was wrong about him. About you both. I let prejudice cloud my judgment. Eleanor couldn't hide her surprise. Are you apologizing, Lord Ashworth? I'm acknowledging an error. Not quite the same thing. But his eyes held something like respect. The board is reconsidering several applications. I can't promise anything, but Vale's will be among them. After he left, Sebastian appeared at her side. Did that just happen? I think Lord Ashworth just admitted he was wrong. Hell must have frozen over. Eleanor laughed. Or maybe people can change. At midnight, after the last guest left, Eleanor and Sebastian stood alone in the gallery. Empty champagne flutes littered tables. Red dots marked sold pieces, 12 of the 23. You did it, Sebastian said. We did it. No. This was yours. I just wrote checks. Eleanor took his hand. You gave me the freedom to try. That's more than money. They locked up together, drove home to Vale House through dark country roads. At the house, their new dog, a golden retriever they'd named Atlas, greeted them with enthusiastic tail wags. He missed us, Sebastian said, scratching Atlas's ears. He misses anyone who's gone for more than 10 minutes. Inside, they collapsed on the sofa. Eleanor kicked off her heels. Sebastian loosened his tie. I'm exhausted, Eleanor said. I'm proud. Of what? Of you. Of us. Of what we've built. He pulled her close. 3 months ago, we almost fell apart. And look at us now. Eleanor thought about it. The gallery opening. The book project. Lord Ashworth's grudging respect. Her marriage, real and solid. We've come a long way from a business transaction, she said. We have. Speaking of which, Sebastian pulled an envelope from his jacket. This arrived today. From the lawyers. Eleanor's heart stopped. Is that the amended prenup? Officially dissolving the original 2-year timeline. Establishing this as a real marriage with standard divorce protections if needed. He handed it to her. I haven't signed it yet. Wanted us to do it together. Eleanor opened the envelope. The document was thick, official, final. This would make it real. Not just emotionally, but legally. Are you sure? She asked. I've never been more sure of anything. Sebastian produced a pen. You. Eleanor thought about everything they'd been through. The arrangement, the performance, the crisis, the reconciliation. The building of something genuine from mercenary foundations. She took the pen. I'm sure. They signed together. No witnesses, no ceremony. Just two signatures on a legal document that said, we choose this. We choose each other. Sebastian tucked the document back in the envelope. Well, Mrs. Vale, we're officially married now. How does it feel? Exactly the same as yesterday. Which means perfect. Eleanor curled against him. Atlas jumped up onto the sofa, despite the rules against it. Neither of them protested. I got an email from Victoria Ashworth today, Eleanor said. Sebastian stiffened. What did she want? To apologize. Said she'd been following her father's lead without thinking for herself. That seeing my gallery opening made her realize she'd been wrong about us. Do you believe her? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Eleanor looked up at him. People change, Sebastian. We're proof of that. Fair point. He kissed the top of her head. What do you want to do about it? I think I'll have coffee with her. Hear what she has to say. Maybe she's genuine, maybe she's not. But I won't know unless I try. That's very mature of you. I'm learning from my wise husband. Who told you I was wise? No one. I'm being generous. Sebastian laughed, and the sound filled the room like light. Eleanor closed her eyes, listening to his heartbeat, feeling Atlas's warmth against her legs, thinking about the gallery and the book and the life they were building. A year ago, she'd been at Sotheby's, cataloging other people's treasures, resigned to a future she hadn't chosen. Now she was here, in a house she'd learned to love, with a man she'd chosen to marry twice, once for necessity, once for love. The first time hadn't been her choice, but every day since had been, and she'd choose it again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day for the rest of her life. Chapter 15, 2 years later. Eleanor woke to winter sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows and Sebastian's arm draped across her waist. 2 years. Almost to the day since she'd stood in this very house as a nervous bride, counting down the days until freedom. Now freedom looked different. It looked like this, waking up beside someone who chose her every morning. Someone she chose back. You're awake, Sebastian murmured, not opening his eyes. How did you know? Your breathing changed. He pulled her closer. Also, you're plotting something. I can feel it. Eleanor smiled. I'm not plotting. You're always plotting. He opened one eye. What is it this time? Another gallery expansion? A second book with Margot? Actually, I was thinking about the date. Sebastian went still, then opened both eyes. 2 years. 2 years. They lay in silence for a moment. The original prenup would have ended today. They'd have gone their separate ways. Eleanor with her £20 million and her freedom, Sebastian with his Heritage Board seat that he'd never gotten anyway. Do you ever think about it? Sebastian asked. What would have happened if we'd stuck to the plan? Sometimes. Do you? Sometimes I wonder if I'd have gone through with it. Let you walk away. He traced patterns on her shoulder. I don't think I could have. You might have. We barely knew each other then. I knew enough. He propped himself up on one elbow. I knew you challenged me, made me think about things differently, made me want to be better. Eleanor turned to face him. I would have left, taken the money, started fresh somewhere. Probably would have convinced myself I was happy. But you wouldn't have been. No, because I'd have been wondering what if. What if we'd tried? What if the performance had been real all along? She kissed him. I'm glad we didn't have to find out. Sebastian's phone buzzed. He groaned. It's too early for the world to need things. Check it. Might be important. He grabbed the phone, read the message, and sat up abruptly. Eleanor. What? The Heritage Board just sent an email. They're voting today on Vale House's status. Final decision. Eleanor's heart jumped. After Lord Ashworth's change of heart at the gallery opening, Sebastian had resubmitted his application. but there'd been no word for months. What time's the vote? 10 o'clock. We can watch the live stream. He looked at her. I'm nervous. You? Never. I'm serious. This matters. Not because I need their approval anymore, but because, he struggled for words. Because I want them to see what we've built. What Vale House has become. Eleanor understood. Over the past 2 years, they transformed Vale House into something remarkable. Not just restored it, but reimagined it. The servants' quarters had become an artist residency program. The gardens hosted community events. The house itself was a living example of how historic properties could serve the present while honoring the past. Then let's get dressed and find out, Eleanor said. At 9:30, they sat in Sebastian's office, the live stream loaded on the large screen. David had flown in from Singapore specifically for this, and now sat with them, coffee in hand. No matter what happens, David said, you've already won. You know that, right? I know, Sebastian said, but his knee was bouncing. Eleanor took his hand. We've got this. The live stream began. The board members filed in. Lord Ashworth, Lady Pemberton, Victoria Ashworth, newly appointed as the youngest board member, and 9 others. Ashworth called the meeting to order. Today we're voting on 3 applications for protected heritage status. The first is Vale House, Worcestershire. Eleanor held her breath. Lady Pemberton spoke first. I visited Vale House twice in the past year. The restoration work is exemplary. More importantly, the vision is innovative. Mr. Vale and Mrs. Vale have created a model for how historic properties can remain relevant and accessible. Another board member, but the controversy around their marriage is irrelevant, Victoria Ashworth interrupted. What matters is the work, and the work speaks for itself. Hear, hear, someone else added. The debate continued for 20 minutes. Some members praised the artist residency program. Others questioned whether Sebastian's approach was too modern. Finally, Ashworth called for the vote. All in favor of granting Vale House protected heritage status. Eleanor counted hands. 8. Opposed. 4. The motion passes. Vale House is hereby granted Grade I protected status under the National Heritage Act. Sebastian let out a breath he'd been holding for 2 years. David whooped. Eleanor threw her arms around her husband. You did it, she said. We did it. After David left to catch his flight, Eleanor and Sebastian walked the grounds of Vale House. It was cold, the kind of crisp winter day that made everything look sharper, clearer. So, Eleanor said, you finally got what you wanted. Did I? The Heritage Board approved you. Your mother's house is officially recognized as important. You proved you belong. Sebastian stopped walking. You know what's strange? 2 years ago, that would have meant everything. The validation, the approval, the proof that I was good enough. He looked at the house. But now, it's nice, but it's not what makes me feel like I belong. What does? You. This life we've built. The fact that we chose each other even when we didn't have to anymore. He pulled her close. I belong because you made space for me. Not the Heritage Board. You. Eleanor felt tears threaten. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. I'm practicing. I have a speech to make at your book launch next month. Oh God, please don't embarrass me. I'm absolutely going to embarrass you. It's my job as your husband. They walked back to the house hand in hand. Atlas bounded ahead, chasing birds he'd never catch. Inside, Eleanor found an envelope on the hall table. Her name, in familiar handwriting. She opened it. A card from her mother. Epilogue. 5 years later, Eleanor stood in the garden of Vale House, watching Sebastian chase their daughter through the rose bushes. Lily was 3, all wild curls and infectious laughter, convinced that Atlas was a horse she could ride. Papa, lift me, she demanded. Sebastian scooped her up, spun her around until she shrieked with delight. Eleanor's hand rested on her swelling belly. Number 2 was due in 4 months. A boy, they'd learned last week. They were thinking of naming him after Sebastian's father. The gallery had expanded to 3 locations. Margot's book had become a bestseller, spawning 2 sequels. Vale House's artist residency program had won national recognition. Eleanor sat on 2 heritage boards now, the youngest member of both. And somewhere in a dusty file in Sebastian's office, buried under years of paperwork, was the original prenup, the one that had given them 2 years and promised freedom. They'd never thrown it away, kept it as a reminder of where they'd started, of how far they'd come. Sophie appeared on the terrace, pregnant herself now, Marie beside her. "Lunch is ready when you are." "Coming," Eleanor called back. She walked across the lawn. Sebastian met her halfway, Lily on his shoulders. "Happy?" he asked. Eleanor looked around. At the house they'd restored, at the gardens they'd opened to the public, at their daughter, their friends, their life. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she said. "Even when you were trading your freedom for money." "Turns out I wasn't trading it. I was choosing it. I just didn't know yet." Sebastian shifted Lily to his hip, took Eleanor's hand. "Best business transaction I ever made." "Same." They walked toward the house, toward lunch with friends, toward their future. A future they'd built from the strangest beginning. A future they chose. Together. The end.